are you? Hey, it's me. How you doing? Good afternoon. Welcome to Hal Sparks Megaworldwide. It's a pleasure to be with you again. Those of you that were with us this morning, nice to see you. Those of you that weren't, good to see you. Yeah, both. Lots to cover today. The potential for a very long show. So I want to hop right in and get to our clips immediately. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show in any way you can, or make a very distinct stand against my existence and try to get me run off the internet because I could use the press. I think that's got to be a goal of yours. If you're just going to troll, I mean, anybody can do that. That's do the heavy lifting. Come on, bring your A game. We've got plenty of options these days. You can try to get me canceled, in the name of getting rid of cancel culture. Anyways, so like I said, lots to talk about. Let's get to first right out of the gate. Well, I'm gonna try to arrange this. Trump was eaten backstage at the at CPAC. Unfortunately, he was consumed in one bite. Those of you that saw me cover his entire speech can understand that at the end of his speech, he shrunk down so small he could fit on the podium itself. And he made the mistake of going backstage where apparently a friend of Steve Bannon's was there to consume him whole. I'm kidding. This is just the frozen shot of him. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Just want to tell you, hump. This is just kind of amazing. All right. So this is fairly short. And then we may have one of the longer clips I've ever done, but it's kind of worth it because it's like Jimmy Dore did the work of summing up all the dumbest takes on Ukraine in one fell swoop. We'll get to that in a minute. But this is Trump showing all of us how it's done, bringing the A game, displaying strength and knowledge of the issues. Like the keen, finely tuned mind, the man who knows ISIS better than the generals, the Washington generals, but still, the basketball team that plays the Harlem Globetrotters all the time. But still, this is if you want to deal with a massive military issue in the world or a huge Gordian knot of politics, we're going to see how it's done, people. Here it goes.
Very good. Mr. President, can I jump right in if I may?
Very good. Hello.
A question. Good to see you. Great to see you. It's very noteworthy that under 4 years of President Trump, Vladimir Putin made no moves on any region, any country.
Yeah, he was constantly funneling fighters into the Donbass and Crimea regions. He was building up their support over that time, and then lots of other places. We also gave him 3 bases in Syria, and Trump wanted to destroy NATO. So why would he fight for something he was about to be handed?
Anything he wants so dearly to bring back into the Soviet Union. Does his move and what's going on in Ukraine right now make it any more interesting for you, any more desires for you to run for president in 2024?
I just think it's a shame what's going on. There was no reason for it. It shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it shouldn't have happened. We should have just given him Ukraine. Why does there have to be all this fighting when we could just hand the Ukrainian people over to Vladimir Putin and let him dispose of them the way he has the Ukrainians in the Russian separatist regions?
Not have happened if our administration were in place. Not even close. He always had a feeling for Ukraine, but it would never have happened.
He always had a feeling for Ukraine. Yeah, but it would have just stayed a feeling. Feelings. Bombing the fuck out of your feelings.
What's happening today is so sad when you watch it, when you see what's going on. Now, who knows where it's going? I mean, they're very brave people. The way they're fighting, it's an amazing thing. But this.
By the way, I think he means the Ukrainians, but it's anybody's fucking guess. Hey, CSL, bless you. Take a walk. Take care of yourself. Smile. We got it covered. Miss you. He could have said the Ukrainian people, but apparently he's under orders.
Never have happened. Already thousands of people are dead. This would have never happened.
Yeah, never. I mean, Putin always had feelings about it, but he wouldn't act on his feelings if he had me there.
Make you want to run for president anymore?
I just want to do what's right for the country, and that's what.
Oh, so he's not going to run then, I guess.
We'll do what's right for the country at the right.
So he's going to retire, go out to pasture, stud.
I will let you know. And thank you for that question. I appreciate that question.
Thank you for asking me why I should run again, so I can help. You can help me suck money out of these assholes using my Save America PAC when I never intend to spend it on anything but my own rent. Thank you for bringing that up. It really helps me raise money. Also, Hype Train on Twitch.
We also gave a lot of the javelins that you're hearing so much about. We gave.
He denied him the javelins until they were going to do the press conference, and then he couldn't help it. By the way, Congress.
Javelins when President Obama was giving sheets and pillows, and I get.
Yeah, sorry. Yanukovych's replacement had just come in, and they were still horribly corrupt. This is pre-Zelensky. Okay? We weren't about to start giving them weapons that at that time, big portions of their military and other parts of their government were run by the separatists. The people who were helping, aiding, and abetting the separatists, so that if we gave them arms, they would just give them to the Russians to fire on the Ukrainians. Have some fucking pillows until you can get rid of these assholes. And then they did, and Congress was like, okay, now you can have javelins. And he was like, tap the brakes. You want those javelins? I'm going to need you to do a press conference about my political opponent.
Blankets. That didn't help too much, but we gave javelins.
Well, they slept very well, and the Russians didn't invade. Maybe you should have given them pillows and blankets. Apparently, that was holding the Russians at bay the whole time.
A lot of them too, and I guess that's
because Putin had feelings about Crimea for a long time, but it was those fucking pillows. They probably gave them towels, and the Ukrainians were wetting one end.
It's helping a lot.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please go ahead.
How are you?
How are you? Nice to see you.
Good. I have a question for you about one of your pals, one of your friends. Text messages were recently released from the January 6th committee sent by Sean Hannity on January 6th. In it appears that he's contradicting what you were trying to tell your staff that day, and at least text messages to one senior staffer. Do you still consider Hannity a friend and ally?
What?
Or is he a traitor to MAGA and America? How can you trust a man who is frank with you in text messages and lies on Fox News? And then when his frank text messages come out, it's clear that he was not cradling your balls and working the shaft the way he was supposed to, the way he was doing on television. He was using too much teeth.
I don't know what messages you're talking about, but I think
I don't know what messages you're talking about. Yeah, he does.
Great gentleman, a very talented person, gets fantastic ratings, and certainly he speaks well of me. He agrees with what I'm saying, so I really don't know.
Yeah, apparently not on January 6th, though, which was the whole point, because you're making his job harder because he's having to carry your water in.
Text messages.
Oh, I haven't seen him. No, I haven't heard about it.
Nah, I don't know what text messages. I didn't see any text messages that day. I was too busy ignoring calls from Don Jr.
No, I think he's fantastic.
Mr. President.
Yeah,
Mr. President, during your whole administration,
Look at the look on his face too. Kind of like I wasn't supposed to get any tough questions. Yeah, he's very talented. He's I don't know if you. I can't wait till Sean makes it to Dancing with the Stars.
promises made, promises kept, resonate. Last year, you promised to roll out a social media platform that all Americans can jump on to secure their voice. Just 2 weeks ago, you rolled out Truth Social.
Yeah.
Would you please comment?
Excuse me, it's pronounced Troot, and some of us are still waiting in line patiently to be. I haven't said a single Troot since. I haven't said a single Troot at any point since I've signed up, because I'm saving all my Troots for one big blast. A big blasted Troot. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to blast Troot all over the place. Just spraying Troot everywhere.
On the success of this rollout and how significant it is in our culture of communication.
Well, I think
it's huge, gigantic, broken, doesn't work, fucked up. It's basically a ripoff of Twitter, but awesome.
An incredible success. I mean, you have hundreds of thousands of people trying to get on, and we're doing it very.
That nothing says success about a social media platform like hundreds of thousands of people trying to get on. Desperately, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with it. It's such a huge success, especially the signing up and getting trying to get on. I mean, that's what you really, isn't that what you go to your social media platform? Any social media platform can have a greased, facial recognition automatically get into your account thing, but only truth. You got to fight for the truth.
Slowly, you open something like that. I had hundreds.
Hold on. You have to slowly what? Shit. And by the way, that last screen grab was the man who knows nothing about social media at all, except thumbs.
I think it's been an incredible success. I mean, you have hundreds of thousands of people trying to get on, and we're doing it very slowly. You open something like that. I had hundreds of millions of people. All of a sudden, we had nobody. We had no.
I mean, oh yeah, you got to slow down because the servers will explode. That's very true.
They just explode.
Yeah, that's right. If you try to get if people try to join all at once.
He meant explosive in terms of fire.
That's right. You can't expect people to join, that quickly. It's absurd. Hold on. It'll blow up and cause
atmospheric filth.
That's right. But hundreds of millions, and he had hundreds of millions of people on social media, and then nobody. The same people on 3 or 4 platforms, and a lot of bot accounts, and blah blah blah.
And now we're going to have a very strong voice again. We have tremendous.
Yes. I used to have it's the Bill O'Reillying of his social media presence. I used to be on one of the biggest networks in the world, and I could reach the entire world, and I was played in 3 different major countries and all throughout the world. And then now I'm in a digital cul-de-sac in the corner of if you make a right at Craigslist just past free furniture, and you'll find my voice.
As you see, and we're getting tremendous reviews too on the platform itself.
Yes, you are. You're getting tremendous reviews like, looks just like Twitter, only shitty. It's like a great club that no one's in. The doors are locked.
It's slowly been opened. People are getting on and they're loving the product, and we're getting a voice.
This is so bad. Oh, God.
First post.
Well, we'll be doing it pretty soon.
Yeah, when will you do your first post? Pretty soon. First of all, he's already done his first post. Don Jr. shared it allegedly on the site, which means that Don Jr. wrote that first one as a test, or Devin did, and Trump didn't write it, and they didn't tell him about it.
To hold on a little bit, but people are loving it, as you know. And
yeah,
I love the fact
as you know they're loving it. You just asked me about it and asked me, and I told you they're loving it, as you know, because I said they're loving it, and now you know that I said that, so therefore you think that.
you got the word truth. Truth is a great word.
Isn't it? Truth is such a great word. It doesn't have to, the meaning of it, fuck that. But truth is such a great word, isn't it? It's such a, once you say you have the truth.
It's nice to be appreciated.
Oh, I agree. That was weird. My Siri just talked to me. So stupid. Truth is such a nice word.
We'll be doing it pretty soon. I wanted to hold on a little bit, but people are loving it, as you know. And I love the fact that we got the word truth. Truth is a great word. Yeah.
Right now.
That fucking lame. Truth is a great word. It's got a great brand. You know what I mean? The truth has such a good brand. And if you can brand yourself to the truth, that's the
as of this morning, the waiting list is closing in on 1 million people. Has that even exceeded your expectations?
I thought it would do very well. I've done very well in this world, and I thought it would do very well. But the two things I'm really happy about: they love it once they get on, and the list of people wanting to get on is record-breaking.
Yes, the it's got a record-breaking number of people who can't log in. Yeah, and once they get on, they love it. It's the getting on part that's a bit
So we're very
difficult.
Mr. President, Mr. President,
Yeah, please. Hi.
We're seeing a lot of bravery from Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky.
No, let's keep.
Zelensky, and he's not abandoning his people. He's staying and taking up arms with his countrymen. If you were in a similar situation as president, would you take up arms like Zelensky?
Well, you never know about bravery. Some people think they're brave and they're not brave, and other people don't think of themselves as very brave and they step up. You never know until you get tested. And he's being tested at the highest level, and so far he's really shown great leadership and great bravery. They say he was
The answer is no.
an actor or a comedian, and all of that's fine, but he is showing a lot of bravery so far, and hopefully
So far, he might become a coward later, but I think it saves time to start as a coward.
hopefully we won't have to need that too much longer, because maybe things can end. This should not happen. This should.
Yeah, maybe things can end is kind of a shitty way when one side is threatening nuclear annihilation. Maybe things can end, like time and space and the human race, the existence of our society.
Never have happened.
And Putin he said that he thinks that Putin will kill him. Do you think that's true?
Well, that's what he thinks. I believe he does think that, and it's probably true. But he is showing great bravery, absolutely.
Mr. President, the Department of Justice under your administration opened up basically a China espionage initiative. Now the Department of Justice has shut that down. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm surprised they did. We were very careful with that. And China, as you know, is a very big.
We announced our China espionage unit, and they shut down the one we announced. So we obviously don't have any espionage going on with China right now, because if you did have some espionage going on, you would, of course, announce it, especially if you wanted to catch your opponent off guard. If you want to make sure that China doesn't know we have an espionage unit, you announce that you have an espionage unit so that you can catch them, you can sweep the leg.
Player, but it's
Espionage.
it can be a very dangerous player in so many different ways, especially in that we had it very well shut down, and now they're opening it up. And I'm surprised to see that. I don't think we should be doing that, but
We had it very well shut down, and now they're opening it up? What, spying? We had the spying shut down, and now they're opening up the spying again. I hear that Biden wants to tariff the spying. We get 10% of the information they steal from us. And I think that's to give to the farmers.
that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. I think it's a big mistake.
Mr. President?
No, I know, but I don't understand what the fuck you think she said or the reporter said and what your answer meant. I don't even think he knows.
Yes, sir.
Confident in the election integrity measures that have been instituted by certain legislatures, and in Pennsylvania particularly. Are you concerned about this fall?
Well, a lot of things are going on in Pennsylvania. As an example, many subpoenas are out, and they're seeing the kind of corruption that we've all seen, that I've seen. When you look at
Yes, well, believe me, I trust that you have seen a lot of corruption up close and personal. I mean, you've had a view of corruption like no one has ever had.
the ballot harvesting that has been like hundreds of thousands of votes, and this is just now coming out.
By the way, and in no way should anyone suspect that the reason he knows about ballot harvesting is, of course, because he arranged for it. And the ballots that they were harvesting were fake Trump votes, and he still couldn't come up with enough votes to get his dumbass back in office. It couldn't possibly be that he's aware of all this criminality is and wants them to look in very specific places because he actually paid for and arranged it while he was president of the United States. No, it's much easier to believe that Democrats, who apparently are the gang that couldn't shoot straight, could now run big tech, the government, the military-industrial complex, and rig the entire election from out of power.
It on tape, they have it on pings. A ping is now a modern-day fingerprint.
Oh, I see. They have it on pings. They pinged it. It's been pinged. Ping. Do we have a ping? I should have a ping, shouldn't I? Let's see. Where would I have? Let's see. I have a ping. Is that a? No, that's not a ping. No, that's not a ping. No, definitely not. Could it be a ping? Oh, thank you. Thanks very much. I don't have a ping. I don't have any pings. I'm sorry. I should.
It's conclusive and it's determinative. But Pennsylvania, I know, is, as you know, over the last 3 or 4 months, they've become very active because they found out that, I believe they found out that it was a big scam in Pennsylvania.
Okay, I believe that they found out it was a big scam. Well, then why? I mean, that's all you need. Why wouldn't you just announce that it's a big scam? If you believe they found out, why would you even talk about it if you didn't believe it? But secondly, wouldn't you want to know? I mean, what you believe is one thing. But it would be nice if you know, someone with actual testicular fortitude and that was a good, strong leader, as you often allege, would say, I know there was fraud and here it is and I've seen the evidence. But after a year and change, you're still going, I think there might have been something. Could be, could not, how could even possibly, we don't know.
It's been a scam in many other states too.
Do you feel it's been fixed, sir?
I don't know that they're fixing it. I think they're finding out what happened.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're finding out what happened. Yes. Here's what they're finding out, that Biden won. And the more they look, the more they recognize that he won by more.
Right
Keep
now,
looking.
because you really have to find out what happened in order to properly fix it.
Sure. Yeah, you got to find out what happened. And what happened was it was fine. So there's nothing to fix. I opened up your hood and I looked for a problem. The knocking, the pinging, there was nothing. It might be you may have been listening to a channel of knocks and pings on your radio because there was nothing in the actual thing. But we'd love to fix it. Believe me, I'd love to charge you for a tire rotation and power steering and replace your entire engine block if I could. But unfortunately.
And I think they have some very good leadership right now in Pennsylvania and I'm not talking about the governor who doesn't want anything to do with it because he understood what happened. But
yes, he doesn't want to have anything to do with an attempt to undermine the electorate because the election was fine, except in the red areas where people were being kicked off just for mailing in ballots. And the only two people that actually sued the state with Rudy Giuliani at the helm, even though I don't think he had the right to actually represent them in the state, were suing because their votes were not counted in a red county because they mailed their vote in. And so apparently in that red county, they were not curing those ballots. They were not going, hey, was this really your ballot? Before we throw it away, we want to check and see if it was really yours. They were doing that in Philadelphia. They didn't do it in the red counties that all went to Trump. Weird. I know. Weird, right? Weird. And these two guys sued not to get their votes counted, because who gives a fuck with 2 more votes? Trump still loses. No, they wanted all the votes that were cured, where they would call people in Philadelphia going, did you really vote this way? Yes. Can you come down here and actually prove it? Yes, I can. And those people came down. They want those people's votes thrown out to the tune of 100,000 people, which is more than the cured ballots, but never mind. Doesn't matter. That's the magic number.
Some very good Republican leadership in Pennsylvania, and they're finding out tremendous things that took place during the 2020.
Things that took place. Yeah. That the election officials in states that went to Trump were throwing away people's valid ballots, whether they were Republican or Democrat. They were just tossing them out because they were like, by shotgun, they were figuring the majority of mail-in ballots is going to be Democratic. People who vote in person going to be Republican. So if we just count the ones that people come in on, the majority of those will be for Trump. And if we just toss out as many mail-in ballots blindly as possible, we will cut down the number of Biden votes. And they failed.
Presidential election, it was a scam what took place in Pennsylvania and other mostly swing states, probably other states also, but they focused on
like Texas and Florida and Ohio. Yeah, we should go look at those. They should do a full run of those things. Yeah,
the swing states.
Mr. President, how concerned are you that China might move on Taiwan based on what's happening right now with Ukraine? And are there also concerns that North Korea might be getting a little anxious as well to go back in and reunify?
Yes, they might take Japan and reunify. They're going to attack South Korea.
We did very well with North Korea, as you remember. We were supposed to go to war with North Korea. We never came close. I got along with Kim Jong-un very well. We had a very good relationship. A lot of people say, oh, that's terrible that he had a relationship. Well, we had a very good relationship. We got along. And we didn't have nuclear holocaust. We didn't have, because he has a lot of nukes and a lot of different, we know.
Yeah, he has more nukes now than when you took office. Must be the last 10 months.
Exactly what he's got, and it's very substantial. He seems not to like President Biden very much.
Good.
We'll see what happens there with China and others. I've been saying for a long while now that, look, I happen to think that the withdrawal, the way we withdrew from Afghanistan, was one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of our country. I actually think that if that didn't take place, you might not have what's happening.
Yes, this wouldn't have happened if we'd have stayed in Afghanistan. Yes, because if we were dumping $300 million a day in Afghanistan, Putin never would have recognized these two regions and attacked Ukraine. No.
In Ukraine right now. I think when Putin saw that and when President Xi of China witnessed that, I think he has a whole different design right now than he would have had before that. I think they look.
Yes, there's a big shift in plan from when you thought you were going to be given something to when you have to steal something. And so your strategy is going to be different. Yeah.
That and so grossly incompetent, losing soldiers, leaving Americans behind.
By the way, this is like he even said in the speech, hostages, like, get the fuck out of here.
75 to 85 billion dollars worth of the best military equipment in the world, leaving that behind, having the.
And by the way, $85 billion worth of materials and training to the Afghans over 20 years. And over 3 different times, we dismantled or destroyed that shit like we were going to leave, and then we continued to stay. At the end of it, we had $36 billion worth of gear that was worth $8 billion to us. Only about $3 to $4 billion was usable anywhere else, and it would have cost $6 billion to take it out, so they destroyed it.
Military move first. I think it's one of the most embarrassing moments, and I really.
So embarrassing is important to him. You know, we are out of Afghanistan, materially not spending $300 million a day shoring up a government in a civil war that they never intended to win. Wouldn't that be more embarrassing? Wouldn't it be embarrassing? Here's what I think would be embarrassing, and this is just me, if I was running for president or if I'd actually been president, would be to run for president specifically on the idea that you were going to get us out of Afghanistan because you know more about it than the generals do. You have the best words, and you know how to make a deal, and we have stupid people running things, and then 4 years later, we're still fucking there. That would be embarrassing. And then to lose to a guy you call Sleepy Joe, who doesn't do rallies because we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic, who beats your ass handily in both the Electoral College and the popular vote, and then he gets us out. Ouch!
I think that's a contributing factor to what's happening today in Ukraine, and I think it's going to also lead to.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, Putin was like, you know, my little speech about Ukraine being a part of Russia and NATO expansion and stuff, I wouldn't have even thought those thoughts if America was still burning money in Afghanistan.
Similar thing happening in Taiwan. They wanted to get the Olympics finished. The Olympics are now finished. Let's see what happens. You know, yesterday bombers.
They wanted to get the Olympics finished.
Flew over airspace. First time in many, many decades that's happened.
No, it isn't. And they transit the upper corner of Taiwan's airspace. We have soldiers on the ground, on the beach, training Taiwanese soldiers in Taiwan right now. We have Japanese, UK, Australian, and American ships circling, going through the Strait of Formosa right now. We have the AUKUS agreement. where we are giving nuclear-powered submarine technology to Australia. Trump could have done that. Why didn't he? Why did he never think to do that? How come?
That would have never again happened during my administration. And a lot of people, even the radical left, I saw Chuck Todd said the other day.
Yes, yes, Chuck Todd is radical left.
How come, he was talking to Blinken or somebody, he said, how come this...
And by the way, greatest memory and knows more about these things than anybody. He was talking to Blinken or somebody, Chuck Todd, radical left. Okay.
What happened in the 4 years that President Trump was there? That was a shocking question, and they were unable to answer that question. Someday I'll write a book and I'll tell you why it never happened.
Great. Write a book now. I mean, fuck it. Release another picture book of Instagram photos that you've stolen from other people and make money on it to pay your bills.
But it
Write a
never
book.
happened.
Mr. President, there's a very, very important question to be asked. What is the one sanction or the two sanctions that have not been implemented to stop Vladimir?
Yes, here we go. Details. Get ready, people. If you have not gotten your legal pads out and your pen, be ready to take note, because this is where we're going to get real information. This man was president for 4 years. He's seen information that you and I could never even dream of seeing. And so he has all the knowledge. He's got a 4D chess-like brain that's working on all angles. And he's going to tell you right now, what are the one or two extra sanctions that could change the whole thing. Here we go.
That you would implement, given
that
Trump.
You would implement. Here we go.
Sanctions. Now you have to understand, sanctions are very expensive for our country also. But the one that people are talking about, which is very, very severe, as you know, is SWIFT. And that just really destroys a banking system of a country. It's a very big step. And we'll see whether or not that step is.
Okay. SWIFT is a European decision. That's not a sanction. That's not a sanction. It's not a sanction. The fact that he doesn't even know that you can't sanction somebody off of SWIFT is fucking dumb. That is up to the Europeans, and they are doing it. They've already moved these banks off of SWIFT. By the time he said that decision had already been made.
But thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people could die with this, and this could spread to other countries, and it could spread throughout the world. I mean, this could be a world war. Something has to be done. Should have never.
Yes, asshole, that's what he's asking you. What sanctions would you put in place that would stop this? And you said something that isn't a fucking sanction.
Started, and it did, and something has to be done. So that would be.
Wait a minute. It was going to start. It started, and it did, and something was going to have to be done. Asshole, he's asking you what to do.
Countries, and it could spread throughout the world. I mean, this could be a world war. Something has to be done. Should have never started, and it did, and something has to be done. So that.
Yeah, he's asking you what you do. What do you do? What's to be done? What do you do? Say it. Fucking say it. What do you think you're going to do? Give away the secret? I don't want to give Biden any ideas. He might jump on my idea. I don't want to give Putin any idea of the secret thing I told Biden to do. Get the fuck out of here.
Be the one that seems to be on most people's minds. If you read, if you see, if you study, that seems to be the one that's
given the situation
the most
now,
powerful.
what should be?
Yeah, if you read, if you see, if you study, SWIFT seems to be the most powerful. Not our decision, not our sanction. He couldn't do it if he was president. That's not a sanction.
If you were president right now, and the situation is what it is now, which you say it wouldn't have gotten here, what should Joe Biden do? What should Biden do?
Well, I think I know exactly what should be done. Number one, we shouldn't be here. But on
Yes. Number one, build a time machine.
the assumption that we're here, and that's a big assumption, but it's happened. There are things that he should do. I would rather not tell him under this forum. I don't think it's appropriate to say that.
What? You're not telling him. What? If it's a good idea, say it. Fuck, this is dumb. Listen to this asshole. I would rather, you know what I mean? It's kind of a secret. I don't want to spoil the surprise.
We're here. That's a big assumption, but it's happened. There are things that he should do. I would rather not tell him under this forum. I don't think it's appropriate to say that, but there are things he could do that would be very strong, very powerful, and I think would end it pretty quickly.
Yes, he could nuke Russia and then just take the losses. It would, very powerful things. If he would just implement my magic plan, I'll have it done in about 2 weeks. Fucking hell. What the fuck?
Remember this, we are the greatest nuclear power.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I was kidding.
I was in office, I had it rebuilt, modernized, and also rebuilt our military, also started.
Oh, so it's way faster. So you could nuke them quicker. Just nuke them then. Just kill millions of Russians, especially in the areas where they are protesting. You know, try to hit the cities where the Russians themselves are rising up. What the rat fuck?
Space Force, which has a lot to do with what we're.
Okay. Space lasers. What you do is you lure Putin out onto a balcony. And then you get a Jewish laser beam and...
But we're the greatest nuclear power. But Russia has an almost equal nuclear power. And China is 5 years behind, but they have very substantial nuclear power. We all have to be very careful. We're gonna
yeah, assholes. She's not asking you what not to do. We all kind of know we don't want a nuclear war. Let's just assume that no one wants total nuclear annihilation. A good portion of us lived through the fucking 80s. We're okay. Yes, and Russia does, and right, Sharon, Russia does have more nukes than we do because we've cut down on ours. Ours are better. Theirs might go and hit their own cities, but still, that's not something we wish on a bunch of innocent Russians who didn't have a choice in who their leader is and haven't had a choice for about 15 years. But let's just say in general, let's say a total nuclear war isn't an option. What's plan B?
Leave it there. Thank you all. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Hope the family's doing well. Hope the family's doing
Thank
well.
you all very much.
Thank you.
I like you people.
Love you too, Mr.
I like you people. Love you too, says the guy in the crowd. Listen to this. The dude has...
He's doing well. Hope the family's doing
Thank
well.
you all very much.
Thank you.
I like you people.
Love you too, Mr. President. Thank you. Let's go. The battery.
Jesus Christ. Love you too. I'm glad there's that, that's the nice thing about the separation. It's not like the Democrats who have total control over the media, the liberal media, you know what I mean? Just doing whatever. Good times. All right, here we go. Now, let's jump into probably the dumbest person to guide us through this. This is truth about Ukraine, Russia, not what you think. So whatever conclusion you've come to, and by the way, this is from February 24th. So this is the day of the beginning of it or right before, depending on when he posted it. So hindsight's 2020, and he could. And by the way, yes, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, infotainmentwars.com, and of course, twitch.tv/Hal Sparks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up. If you're on Facebook, you can give stars to support the show. That's a great way to do it. Or you can Venmo the show, or you can Patreon support the show. There's lots of ways to do it. And here we go. This one's long, kids. So I may at some point just go fuck this and bail out because it's boring and weird. But this is, this is the description of this right down here says, while the Biden administration and its mouthpieces in the mainstream corporate media beat the drums for war, which beat the drums for war. Okay. While labeling Putin an imperialist warmonger, yeah, I mean, the poor guy. How dare we call him such terrible names? Few bother to mention the decades of intensive American meddling in Russian and Ukrainian affairs that have inexorably led to the current crisis. Jimmy and journalist Max Blumenthal discussed the events that precipitated Putin's recognition of the Donbas region's independence. That's what it is. You know, if it hadn't been for the American meddling, Putin never would have come to this. This is because of us. We did this. America's fault. This is America's fault.
About the Ukraine, and I just want to start off with this.
First of all, it's Ukraine, fucko. It's a country. The Ukraine is what the Russians call it because they believe it's their territory, like the Mojave Desert. We don't call the Mojave Desert because it's not an actual country or a state in and of itself. We call it the Mojave Desert. In the same way, the Russians call Ukraine the Ukraine because they think it's fucking theirs. And so when people start talking about it and they go, the Ukraine, automatically your antennas should go up.
I saw this on the Twitters. It says, this is a guy named
Malinowski.
Tom Malinowski. Yeah. He's a diplomat, father. So it's more important to him to be a diplomat than a father, which I think is effed up. That's
Well, one is the first one is not maybe perhaps the importance on which he puts his role in the world, but on why you should listen to him on the social media platform that he's on, so that you would take it away that this is he's a diplomat. That's why what he's saying actually amounts to something.
Where he gets his sense of self from his job, like a real man. Anyway, diplomat, father, former Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights and Labor. He's a congressman, and he represents New Jersey's 7th District, which is where Kurt is right now at Uncle Vinny's. So he'll be at Uncle Vinny's all weekend. Anyway.
I think that's a joke related to something else.
So Tom Malinowski's tweeted this out. He said, I'm just returning from the Munich Security Conference where national security leaders from the U.S. and Europe gathered to confront the Ukraine crisis. Some good news. I've honestly never seen more unity among our allies or two parties in Congress on any global issue. Okay, that's actually bad news.
No, it isn't.
It turns out it's bad. When the Democrats as George Carlin pointed out many years ago, when the Democrats and Republicans agree on something, that means there's an extra good screwing coming your way.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about stuff on the level of like Hitler invading the Sudetenland or Poland. Because I don't know if you know, but a lot of people on different sides of the political spectrum came together in response to Hitler. There are exclusion zones to this idea. I think he's talking about tax policy, but you can think, to Jimmy, tax policy and the invasion of Ukraine, same thing.
So this is not good. I just want to remind people what started all this stuff that's happening in right now, the most recent history. There's longer history.
Yeah, it's long. He's going to set us up. When is this one? This is from 2016.
But this is so when Germany got...
Oh, and by the way, don't let op-ed fool you. This is not someone's opinion editorial. This is fact.
Back together, reunified. Part of the promises was that we wouldn't expand NATO, right? We're not...
Yeah, but then also they weren't supposed to go into Chechnya or Georgia or into Crimea and those places. And every time they did, we would expand NATO because the neighboring countries were like, I don't know if I feel safe around this asshole.
To do it. We've been expanding NATO nonstop, and now we want to do it to Ukraine, which is...
Can't, yeah, fix the slip finally.
Used to be part of Russia. It's right on Russia's doorstep.
Yeah, your doorstep. It's, it's the welcome mat of Russia. If you want to visit, if you're an Amazon driver, you just leave stuff in Ukraine and Russia will pick it up when they get home from work.
NATO broke the promise. So we've been expanding. So that's the big problem here.
And now the NATO expansion, by the way, countries can join NATO if they fucking want to. NATO isn't going out and shopping for these folks to join. But if they don't feel safe and they want to join the alliance because they're worried about Russian aggression, then they should have the right to join. The idea that somehow Russia can say, look, no one else can join your treaty no matter what the fuck we do, is insane.
There's other problems. And here, I just wanted, this was a pretty good explainer. It's on fast speed, so really got to listen. Here we go.
Great explainer. Okay, great. So, by the way, so this is where Jimmy got his idea of how it works.
So on Monday, Russia's President Vladimir Putin officially recognized 2 breakaway areas in eastern Ukraine. Both of them are in the Donbass region. They call themselves People's Republics of Luhansk and Donetsk.
Yeah, they aren't. They're not breakaway areas. They're still part of Ukraine.
Been controlled by pro-Russian separatists since 2014 with Russia's backing.
Oh, they've been controlled by pro-Russian separatists with Russia's backing. That's weird. Tiny little country like Russia, it manages to carve off a chunk of another country using separatists that support the bigger country who just happen to... Okay.
Now, these so-called People's Republics make up around 1/3 of the Ukrainian districts of Luhansk and Donetsk. And there's what's called a line of...
I'm sorry, how much? How much? These so-called People's Republics make up about...
These so-called People's Republics make up around 1/3 of the Ukrainian districts of Luhansk and Donetsk. And there's what's called a line of...
That's the... Hold on. What in the world? Yeah, that's not happening. Poink. Someone's... Guys, I don't want anybody posting people's addresses and stuff in my chat. Go away.
With the separatists on one side and the Ukrainian forces on the other. They've been...
Oh, I see. That's not misleading or fucking anything. Ukrainian separatists are here. These are just separatists. They just want to be separate, guys. They're just, I mean, they're Russian-backed militias and they're supported with arms and all this stuff, but they're just separatists. Everywhere in this area, that's not Ukrainians. That's not people who live and work over here and used to be able to come and go as they pleased without having to go through checkpoints. No, those are Ukrainian forces.
Each other off and on across that line for years, even though they're supposed to be...
Even though they're supposed to be a ceasefire. They've been firing. Weird.
Fire.
It's almost as if the Russian separatists who are getting constant arms from Russia don't want it to hold.
So they've been fighting across here. So this is where the separatists are.
Yes, that's where the separatists are. These poor people. Yeah, all they want to do is separate, guys. They just want to, they when they eat, they make sure their vegetables don't touch their meat. It's, they don't like it when their corn hits their mashed potatoes. They're just separatists. It's like a religion.
And this is where the Ukraine forces...
Yeah, it's just all forces. There are no citizens in that area. I don't know if you know that. No one works in that area. No one lives in that area. There's no farmers, nothing. It's all just jackbooted Ukrainians.
And they've been fighting since 2014, right, Max? Would you say since 2014?
Yeah, they've just been fighting since 2014. Just fighting. These assholes didn't try to seize a chunk of the country for Russia in 2014. They've just been fighting ever since. It's just on and on.
There's a thing called the Minsk Accords, and they've never been following them, but that's...
Yes, you mean the Russian muscled bullshit accord that was meant to force the existence of these separatist regions onto Ukraine? Like, hey, we took these places. Now you have to recognize them and leave them the fuck alone so we can start salami slicing across your goddamn country.
You say that's how long they've been fighting, or have they been fighting longer, Max?
Fighting really started around 2015, but 2014 was the pivot point when ultra-nationalist forces were invested with a lot of power as sort of the...
Ultra-nationalists. The people who are Ukrainian and live in Ukraine and don't want Russia to steal giant chunks of their country. That's what makes you an ultra-nationalist. Let me just put it in this way. If Cuba decided, fuck it, we own Florida, and anybody went, what? And fought back, the Floridians would suddenly, old and young, would be ultra-nationalists.
The military muscle as militias of this new government in Kiev that came into power through what if...
Yeah, the muscle of this democratically elected government.
Effectively was a coup masquerading as a color revolution. No.
Yeah, that's the problem with protests and stuff. By the way, what Max is repeating here and what Jimmy supports, I guess, otherwise he wouldn't have this asshole on, is the Manafort position. This is the Paul Manafort position. Everything that Max Blumenthal has asserted about this situation is the Paul Manafort version of history.
It's the Maidan revolution of dignity, and officially it brought into power a completely U.S.-backed government that replaced a leader, Yanukovych, who had been.
Yeah, poor guy, Yanukovych. It was terrible. He was this poor guy. He was sure he was a Russian sock puppet, and he was funneling money out of the country. And when he left the country, they raided his house and found that he'd been socking away taxpayer funds, and he was undermining the entire government on behalf of Putin for years in an attempt to make it easier ultimately for the Ukraine to be absorbed back into Russia, right?
He's called pro-Russian, but he was basically balancing Ukraine.
Yeah, he was balancing Ukraine with Russia. Like, look how big Russia is, huge. You put that on one side, and you put Ukraine on the other side, and obviously, it's going to do this. Yeah, hold on.
With its oldest and closest trading partner and political partner in Russia.
Yeah, they're just family. Just I don't know why they won't just let themselves be usurped. It's their oldest trading partner. Like Mexico and Canada are to the United States. If America wanted to just usurp Mexico, I'm sure these guys would be fine with it.
And the U.S. obviously wanted him out. A lot of people wanted him.
Because he was setting up Ukraine to be sucked back into Russia and the people to be subverted.
I thought they would have a less corrupt government. A lot of liberal people participated in Maidan. And what they got was a combination of the most corrupt government in Europe, the 9th most corrupt country in the world right now.
Ukraine.
Yeah, by the way, neither of these guys thinks China or Russia are corrupt. Just to clarify, they're not on the list.
The IMF just dumping money in Ukraine. The IMF just dumping money in at Joe.
You mean to help them actually get on their feet as a breakaway republic post 1991 breakup of
command.
Soviet Union?
In Biden's first speech in Kiev in February 2015, he said, "I told the IMF to give them a loan," and the money went straight out to Swiss bank accounts and.
Yeah, that was one of the problems they had and why they had to work with it, because Russia was subverting the entire country. They were sucking money out of the place. And the idea was, we want the money to go to the actual Ukrainians. And that took a while. That's why we only gave them pillows and blankets, and we didn't give them weapons until we trusted the leadership. And now Zelensky, who I believe Jimmy, if I'm not mistaken, will refer to as a neo-Nazi, even though he's a Jewish grandson of Holocaust survivors, was when we felt safe enough to know that if we gave money to Ukraine, it would actually benefit the people.
Offshore, they put a billionaire in power in Kiev, and hit the street muscle were literal neo-Nazis like the Azov battalion.
By the way, this is his that's the part I want to get to. You said the magic word, neo-Nazis. That means the people who are running the things right now are neo-Nazis. Never mind the fact that Russia was inserting these groups in to undermine the government after the Euromaidan.
Ideologically and militarily motivated battalion incorporated into the National Guard, and they went east and started fighting with those on the map that are labeled as separatists, who are actually
those on the map who are labeled as separatists. They're only and by the way, it's rude that they're labeled that way, because all they try to do is break off chunks of the country and give it to Russia.
Russian speakers who are Ukrainian,
right? So
who are being terrorized.
Yeah, Russian speakers. Honestly, Arizona, Texas has a lot of Spanish speakers in it, and there are a lot of Spanish speakers in northern Mexico. And all we're saying is that we should be able to seize parts of Mexico because they speak the same language as a lot of the same people in Arizona and Texas, right?
So what's happening is there's a big neo-Nazi. I'm gonna explain all this in this.
Yeah, tell us all about it, Jibby. Tell us about the neo-Nazis that run Ukraine right fucking now.
But it's just to give you a thumbnail, then we'll go into it.
Yeah.
So
please.
Big part of the Ukraine military is neo-Nazis for real, right? And it's called the Azov.
No, not a big part. Also more aligned with the separatist regions, but go ahead.
Is one of them. And I think the number 2 guy in charge in Ukraine is a freaking neo-Nazi. And
yeah. Number 2 works right up against the Jew who runs the joint.
Oh, they're fighting right over here. Let me just finish this video. And
finish the video. Yeah, let is it Abby Martin? Let Abby Martin explain it. 1/3 of the region where the fighting is going on is the separatists that Putin has recognized. Yeah, tell us all about it.
Over here since 2015, they've been shelling 14,000 people, and the people here all speak Russian.
Yeah, that's all they're doing. They're shelling people, just people. They're just shelling people for speaking Russian.
And a lot of them identify.
One thing to keep in mind is that the separatists lay claim to all of Luhansk and Donetsk, not just the 1/3 they control now.
Right. They lay claim to the parts that they're trying to seize.
Confirm that Russia's recognition of the independence of these so-called people's republics also includes their claim to that extra territory. Now, President...
Right. So what?
...made another big move. He's ordered Russian soldiers to go into the separatist areas.
Yeah, it's a good move. He ordered Russian soldiers to go into the separatist areas. Because the troops he already sent in and the Russian-backed separatists that he sent in have laid claim to the area. So it's a smart move to roll more people in.
We've been speaking to...
Yeah, they're peacekeepers, guys. They're there to keep the peace from Belarus and Crimea. They're there to keep the peace. That's why they have thermal bombs.
So has he ordered soldiers into those areas?
Nah, there's no, he hasn't ordered soldiers in.
There's discussion of it. The Russian Duma has authorized force if necessary, but those photographs were not of any Russian.
No, that was bullshit. That was just the media making up a story.
Official Russian forces operating within the Donbass region. There is currently no evidence that Russian forces have entered the Donbass region.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, I don't know why the news, this is 4 days ago, by the way, so this is kind of fun to watch. Like, has he done maybe he's done a correction on this. Maybe.
Although there are lots of claims and rumors and, but that.
Yeah, claims and rumors. It's probably bullshit, though. It's probably the corporate media.
Seems to be inaccurate right now.
So just so people understand what's happening, this is Ukraine. This is the part that we're talking about right here, the Donbass, and it's made up of these 2 different provinces.
By the way, notice in Dipshit's map that Crimea is included in Ukraine in his little picture right here. Look at that. It's got little hash marks in it like, oh, it's disputed. Like they didn't fucking seize it. And why did they seize it? I talked about it this morning on the morning show. Because oil and gas has been found in this area, and they got half of it just by seizing Crimea, along with the other tactical benefits of the area.
And just so you get a little bit more, in the west of Ukraine,
it's closer to Russia, so it's easier to seize. Hey, fucko, by the way, this is farther away from Russia, and they've seized this area on the border of Moldova. It doesn't matter. Fuck it.
Pro-European. They speak Ukrainian, and they look at Russia with suspicion. And then
this is math. What you're seeing here. This describes all of it. They're close to Russia. They're native Russian. Looks at Russia through the lens of shared history. So if the soldiers want to roll in there and kill anybody that doesn't want to move the country back to Russia, then they just got to take one for the team.
East over here, they're closer to Russia. They're native Russian. They speak Russian, and they look at Russia through the lens of a shared history.
Yeah, they look at it, they read little stories, and then their house gets run over by a tank.
So that's what. So the neo-Nazi Ukraine regime has been
Yes, the neo-Nazi Ukraine regime right fucking now, with the Jewish president, the neo-Nazi regime. It's a regime, guys. And you know how Jimmy feels about regime change. He's for it,
terrorizing those people in Donbass.
Yeah. They've been terrorizing the people in Donbass. The poor Russian military guys who've been sent over there to carve off the region, they're terrorizing them. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Thank you.
Oh,
like, subscribe, thumbs up.
Putin did was recognize that area as its own.
Yeah, he just recognized it. He was like, hey, that looks like part of Russia. That looks a lot like, you can't even really tell. It's all like flat, and there's lots of blown up tanks in that area. It looks like Russia to me. Okay.
Country now, right? And so that's going to could trigger a war between Russia.
Yeah, it could trigger a war. So you might want to slow roll that kind of a thing. No?
Ukraine. And a big part of it is he doesn't want NATO. He doesn't want Ukraine to become part of NATO. And that.
Hi. Fuck him then. Here's how Ukraine was not part of NATO. Now it's gonna be. That's gonna fucking happen. There's no way Ukraine doesn't end up as part of NATO. Even if they slice it in fucking half and half of it joins NATO, that's how this works from now on. You don't get to surround a fucking country, pound it with bombs and weapons, and drive armored columns of tanks through the streets, and then go, all right, if we leave, you guys promise not to get help next time? Piss off.
Pushing for it, so that's part of it. But here.
By the way, who gives a shit if they're pushing for it? It's Ukraine's choice. The fact is that all this violence is based on the idea that Putin thinks it should not be Ukraine's choice. They should be free as any other country to join a treaty or not. And they didn't feel like they needed to join the treaty up to this point. They were offered entry in 2008. And they were back and forth about it. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. And now they're like, well, fuck yeah. That we should have said yes a long time ago.
So here's what Joe Biden said after President Putin recognized the Donbass as being a...
Yeah, he just recognized them. That's all he did. He just looked
so
and saw.
I'm going to begin to impose sanctions in response far beyond the steps we and our allies and partners implemented in 2014. And if Russia goes further with this invasion, we stand prepared to go further as with sanctions. Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? This is a flagrant violation of international...
By the way, Jimmy thinks this is a gotcha because of past U.S. policy under, say, George W. Bush, or the idea that we went to war with other countries. At no point, I would like to point out, at no point has anybody, at least on the Democratic side of the aisle, where there's some debate about whether Trump actually wanted this or not, suggested that we make Afghanistan the 51st state, or Iraq the fucking 51st state. Or that even that Guantanamo is now U.S. territory, and therefore that part of Cuba is now ours, and we can set up any kind of system we want there. There's a wholly different choice here. There's one thing to go to war, whether you think it's justified or not. It is an entirely different thing to say, we now own that country. Especially in the modern era. We've had stable borders in this country and in all of South America and North America for fucking 120 years.
Law and demands a firm response from the international community.
Now, if I could write that funny, I'd be famous.
By the way, he thinks this is ironic because he'll tell us. Okay.
That is just some of the fun. As he's occupying Syria. Right?
We are not occupying Syria right now. Like, that's just weird.
Anyway, so this is what Aaron Mate tweeted out. He said, for the U.S. project of...
and by the way, I still don't know why, and this is a side note, why this is called the Jimmy Dore Show. Because all Jimmy Dore does for a show right now is farm other people's opinions. He showed that the headline of that op-ed, never delved into it. Remember what I said about paragraph 3. Anytime you see an article, at least get down to paragraph 3, or if it's USA Today, paragraph 5 or 7, because that's when you'll get the yeah buts, and that's kind of crucial to whether or not it's as firm and ideal as you think, judging by the headline. All he does is fucking farm other people's stuff. Right now, Max Blumenthal is apparently sitting in a hotel room waiting for Jimmy to just throw him back up on the screen as his like confirmation bias sponsor.
Ukraine into a vassal state while pretending to care.
For the U.S. project of turning Ukraine into a vassal state while pretending to care about its sovereignty, you couldn't pick a worse face than the guy who helped organize the coup of 2014. Or, yes, Biden organized the coup of 2014. Yes, the Euromaidan was all Joe Biden, right? And then got his son a lucrative gas company board seat in the immediate aftermath. Okay, again, up to that point, very corrupt country. After that point, functioning country. One of the reasons why Putin wants to push in is because he could no longer control it with corruption.
Its sovereignty. You couldn't have picked a worse face than the guy who helped organize the coup in 2014 and then got his son.
Kids, do I ever pull up someone's like confirmation tweet or something like that? Let me know if I ever do, where I pull up somebody's thing and read it randomly. Not like the charts and shit that I bring up, but like somebody's opinion piece and go, see, I told you their opinion's like mine and therefore must be true.
A lucrative gas company board seat in the immediate aftermath. So this is the guy talking about the...
By the way, this is the Hunter Biden laptop bullshit story and the idea that Burisma, he's selling the exact same storyline that Trump did.
The sacred sovereignty of Ukraine. And what did they...
Yeah, and at this point, there's no evidence that Russia's going to invade.
Did he do and the Obama administration?
Yes, and by the way, if anybody thinks that I'm just, picking on this fucker or something, this video has 539,000 views already. Jimmy has almost 1 million subscribers. Jimmy is an avowed Marxist left of Bernie Sanders with a $1.4 million house.
They engineered a coup of the democratically elected.
No, they fucking well didn't. That's just a lie. He keeps saying this also because other people have called it a coup. The Euromaidan was not a fucking coup.
Government in Ukraine and replaced it with a neo-Nazi regime. And I'm not making that up. Here it is.
Yes, you are. Leaked audio reveals embarrassing U.S. exchange in Ukraine and EU. By the way, that's Russian leaked audio, but let's see what it says. I think I know what I'm talking about.
To show you the level of meddling. I mean, the level of meddling that the United States has not only done in Ukraine, but Russia.
Terrible.
Is just amazing. So this is...
Okay, so this is the level of meddling in Ukraine is terrible. Also, by the way, like and subscribe, give a thumbs up. If you hate what I'm doing, please give a thumbs down. And trolls, I know we've got some today. Thank you for writing something in the comment section. It really helps because that tells the algorithm that I'm engaging and raises my CPM. So thanks very much, especially on Facebook, more than almost any other place. Trolls, if you write something in the chat, that makes me money more than any other primary thing. So thanks very much. All the people who write because they want to and have something positive to add to the conversation, I appreciate you as well. But we always like to tip the hat to the trolls.
Leaked audio reveals embarrassing U.S. exchange on Ukraine. So this is back in 2014 when the United States was picking who was going to be in power in Ukraine. And
is that what we were doing? We were picking we picked it. We picked who's going to be in power. All right.
Leaked conversation appeared certain to embarrass the United States and seemed designed to bolster charges from Russia, among others, that the Ukrainian opposition is being manipulated by what?
Leaked appeared is a big word.
Which President Obama's administration strenuously disputes. So the charge that Russia was making...
Right. So the Obama administration strenuously disputing this charge from a leaked audio that was leaked by the Russians, which may or not be the entire conversation. That's the fun part. That's to be denied full. That's ridiculous. But whatever Putin said, we should take at face value.
That these people who want to overthrow the government in Ukraine that was democratically elected, and that
they were democratically elected with the help of Paul Manafort.
Was friendly to Russia more so than to the Europe.
Yeah, they were friendly to Russia. And Russia just needs more friends.
Union, that the people who oppose them were being manipulated by the United States. Turns out,
oh dear God, no.
They were, and the audio clip, which I'll play in a second, posted on Tuesday but gained wide circulation on Thursday, appears to show the official Assistant Secretary of State.
Appears. That's interesting.
Victoria Nuland weighing in on the makeup of the next Ukrainian government. Nuland is heard telling U.S. Ambassador Jeffrey Hyatt that she doesn't think Vitaly Klitschko, the boxer turned politician who is a main opposition leader, should be in a new government. So here it is. Listen to this.
Okay, this is going to be good. Here we go.
I don't think Klitsch should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea. When I talked to Jeff Feltman this morning, he had a new name for the UN guy, Robert Seri. So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing and have the UN help glue it. And, the EU.
And she at the end says, and, F the EU. She says at the
Right, because they were ready to split the baby because Germany was, in the process of getting their energy from Russia. That's why the fuck the EU part of it. Secondarily, okay, he plays a little more of it. Okay, hold on.
She says, I think Yashintyak is the guy who got the economic experience, the governing experience. What he needs is Klitschko and Tahenbach on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week, Nuland said in the recording.
Yeah, they're not making that happen. She's just telling you what they think would be best or who they think they'd be working with. And if we're going to fund some of this, we want trustworthy people. They didn't make the ultimate decision.
So we literally did that, right? So we engineered.
No, we literally did not. That's why it says appears to, because they made their own decisions.
We backed, we funded, all that stuff.
Yes, the democratically elected move away from Russia.
And they're neo-Nazis, right?
Yeah. Yes, by the way, yes. Vladimir Zelensky was put in place by neo-Nazis. The vast majority of Ukrainians are neo-Nazis. The separatists just want to be close to Russia where they can be away from the nasty neo-Nazis.
And well, not all of them. I mean, you have a coalition. You have
Max runs in to run interference. They're not all neo-Nazis.
So there's a big faction. There's a big
Tian.
It's a big faction of neo-Nazis. It's not this, it's not a little separatist region of neo-Nazis.
Represented the ultra-nationalist, fascistic, neo-Nazi part of this coalition. He's from the Social National Party, which carries some interesting undertones in its name. And that's why Victorian...
Oh, yeah. The National Socialists, you mean?
Who is now the top official.
By the way, he inverts those as if they wouldn't invert in English to avoid that.
Overseeing Ukraine and Russia policy in the Biden State Department wanted him on the outside because he was too embarrassing to have on the inside.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, the neo-Nazi guy that they couldn't exclude because we don't have control over it. They were like, we'd rather that guy not be part of the interior of the government because he seems like a bad dude. We can't necessarily broom him entirely, but we'd rather him be on the outside. And apparently that's bad because it eats this narrative.
They got Yatsenyuk, who was just this billionaire liberal technocrat, totally corrupt, in power. Klitschko was like a professional boxer who became famous. He's like the Ukrainian Schwarzenegger. So they wanted.
Was that an edit? The flash
on outside because he wasn't really.
Oh, he probably cough button.
Sharp enough. So yeah, you see the U.S. neocon officials of the Obama administration who are totally back in power.
Totally.
In the Biden administration. She's talking about Jeffrey Feltman. Totally. He's now in charge of Ethiopia, Eritrea, the Horn of Africa. They're all back in power, and they're trying to manage the situation again, but it's spun out of control. And here you have them on a leaked.
Yeah, that's what. By the way, they were trying to manage Ukraine, and it spun out of control. And what spun out of control means is that 8 years ago, or whatever, 12 years ago now, the European Union or NATO floated the idea that eventually Ukraine could be part of that. And the Biden administration came in and they were trying to manage the past. And Putin just responded to the fact that he just realized that this had happened over a decade ago. And they're trying to manage it while he surrounded the country with troops and started moving the troops in and bombing the place. And it spun out of control. It just
or
spun.
a hacked call or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, the hacked call. You mean the edited call?
Deciding who runs the Ukrainian government. So it's so absurd when people say,
and I love how he's like, see, Max just sort of said what I sort of said, this thing sort of said, so it must have said it.
Oh,
Good Lord.
Putin is attacking an independent and sovereign Ukraine. It is a U.S. neo-colony. That is all it is. I mean,
yeah, that's all it is. I don't know. And as somebody needs to tell the Ukrainians this. Do these people know that they're dying just to be a U.S. neo-colony? Do you realize that? That they're running up and throwing Molotov cocktails at Russian tanks, and they're standing in front of tanks in groups and by themselves just to be a neo-colony of the United States? I mean, this would be a terrible thing for them to find out. Someone should blare this. Someone should blast this over the fucking airwaves.
That doesn't justify, that would in itself justify an attack on it. But let's do it.
No, that alone, just that they're a neo-colony, wouldn't justify Russia rolling in. But all the other stuff lined up, the fact that there's neo-Nazis that Putin put in himself and that they've been brooming for a decade or so, that shouldn't matter, right?
With this idea that Ukraine is somehow independent, and we can talk.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's clearly a U.S. colony, and we need to. And all these people are just dying to be the 51st state.
How peaceful it is too. It's far from that either.
So let's just.
Yeah, it's not. It's not peaceful, and that's the Ukrainians' fault. Okay, if they would just let the separatists have a chunk of their country and give it to Russia, there wouldn't be all this fighting until the next chunk.
A little bit of the hypocrisy after you know the history.
Canada and our allies will defend democracy. We are taking these actions today.
And by the way, they think that's funny because of the trucker convoy and them shutting down crowdfunding in that country. By the way, this isn't the United States. Canada has no strength or pull in this particular part of it. I mean, they're part of NATO, and it's good because they're fucking-ganic as a country. But this is a gotcha. This is a gotcha.
To stand against authoritarianism.
And again, what's the cackling? And by the way, there's a huge difference between shutting off crowdfunding sources that where foreign money is being funneled into a group of truckers shutting down your roads or shutting down your capital, and calling and then arresting people who are illegally protesting and towing their trucks away, and they'll all get their day in court, versus armed columns rolling into Ukraine. This is a distinct difference. And again, but to Jimmy, this is the lesser of two evils. And the lesser of the two evils, by Jimmy and Max Blumenthal's decision-making process, I suppose, is the Russian invasion. That's the lesser of the two evils. The worst is the fact that the truckers are getting their rigs towed.
So that's funny. And then and then the establishment got their butt buddy.
Whoa. I'm sorry, they're what?
So that's funny. And then then the establishment got their butt buddy, Bernard Sanders is.
Oh, all right. Well, all clearly anti-gay slander aside, their butt buddy, the establishment butt buddy. That's his description of Bernie Sanders. There you go. And this should be a lesson more to the Bernie Sanders and the AOCs of the world, that if this is who you think your friends are, if this is who you think are going to, help you get and stay elected, or actually get you, to get whatever goals you have policy wise to actually happen, you're wrong. This is who you're working with. Centrists are the problem, but these guys they've got your back. That's kind of amazing considering how this asshole. And by the way, the idea that Justin Trudeau is an authoritarian leader on league with Vladimir Putin. This whole video, the purpose of it is to defend Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine as being totally justified. And his attack points so far beyond Obama, which we knew and all that kind of stuff, wholly Democrats, and never bringing up, and so far anyways, the Bush administration, Reagan, Iran-Contra, Vietnam, any of that kind of stuff. It's all because Obama, existed, is to attack Justin Trudeau and Bernie Sanders. That's amazing.
These actions today to stand against authoritarianism.
And he does the fake laugh all the time. And as someone who genuinely laughs, I find it particularly annoying.
So that's funny. And then the establishment got their butt buddy, Bernie Sanders. Bernard Sanders is a very good boy. He said Vladimir Putin's latest invasion of Ukraine is an indefensible violation of international law, regardless of
why. And also, why is that fucking funny? That's kind of odd. You know what I mean? That you can think that he's being, manipulated. You can think that that's a bad read or whatever. But the assertion of what Bernie Sanders is for the establishment, which is bizarre and ridiculous, and then stacking on top of that statement is hilarious.
Whatever false pretext he offers, there's always been a diplomatic solution to this situation. Tragically, Putin appears inept on rejecting it. It's
intent on rejecting it, but. Okay.
Literally, the United States is the people who aren't negotiating, just like Trudeau wouldn't even meet with the protesters.
Well, no, we're not going to negotiate on behalf of another country's ability to make their own determinations when they are a sovereign state. If Ukraine wants to join NATO or asks to join NATO, they will be able to join on the merits. They couldn't right now, even if they wanted to, because you can't have a border dispute in your country and be a part of NATO. That's why Russia recognized the Donetsk regions. The Donetsk and Luhansk regions are recognized because that would be a violation of the NATO joining charter, because you can't have that actively. You got to settle that before you can join NATO. And so by making it permanently unsettled, by making it a permanent war front, by never settling it for a long time, they were keeping Ukraine out of NATO. And now they want more land, the disputed territories, because that will continue to be part of this for a long time.
To ask what their demand were.
No, he went into hiding.
Same thing. It's the Ukraine and the United States that doesn't want to negotiate. And
yeah, why don't they want to negotiate? Why don't they just let themselves look? Just lay back and take it is the Jimmy Dore method.
I want to show you the level of meddling just to get you. This is from Yasha Levine's Substack. I just want to give you the level of meddling,
which Jimmy reads all the time as gospel,
that the United States did when the communists...
Hold on. Wayne Mary, U.S. Embassy official in Moscow during the 90s. Wayne Mary. Okay, hold on 1 second. Because you know how I am with getting them quotes. Wayne Mary. Okay. When is this? This is Yeshua Levine. We created. Let's see. Hold on. Maybe we'll do this. We created, and I'll see if that part comes up. Interviews. Yeah, here you go. Wayne Mary. This is an interview on Frontline. We talk about the fall of 1993, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll see where he's going with this, and we'll see if the takeaway is right. Here you go.
When the
by the way, I would like to say, just point out as this is starting, we is in red, and italicized and bigger. So obviously that's part of the point that's going to be made.
Right? And this is in the 90s. This is from the U.S. Embassy official in Moscow during the 90s. He said
the U.S. Embassy official in Moscow during, or a U.S. It's he's probably he's
the virtual open shop for thievery at a national level and for capital flight in terms of hundreds of billions of dollars and the raping of natural resources and industries on a scale which I doubt has ever taken place in human history.
So we did that on purpose, I guess. Let's see. Where would that be? We created. Let's scroll through this, shall we? So this is so push for reform to government by decree. Unfortunately, since Washington the wrong guys won, their action was mid-scale policy. Familiar to the Republican people, I think it's particularly demonstrated by the extent. So this is the second time the U.S. faced the choice of rule of law or our team. A huge cost to our reputation, if you will, as a government was preaching principle rule of law. People are committed to legal reform, constitutional practice, civil rights, perhaps much less optimistic the ability of Russia to make very rapid economic changes. Sometimes you simply had to choose. And unfortunately, with each passing crisis in post-Soviet Russia politics, the number of genuine Democrats who became disillusioned with American policy grew and grew. And ultimately, I think we lost most of them on the issue in the first war in Chechnya. Tell me about the war in Chechnya. Let's see. I was supposed to bury land in Chechnya. What is the attitude towards the United States? I think there's a great deal of Americans who are perceived to be idealistic, principled. In fact, no government ever actually is, and there was increasingly be unprincipled, conspiratorial, manipulative, excessively identified, whatever. The power centers, I think, is very closely associated with Here you go. I mean, this demonstrated every time Sherman did, and his political party would go to the polls, they were annihilated. As it to overstate things, focus particularly economic on Russia. What was the I'll find it. We're gonna find it in here, unless I missed it. If anybody spots that chunk, this bit right here, we created a virtual. Let's see. There's got to be a way. Like, isn't there a little search thing in these things? Hold on. To search a document. Let's see. It's down in here. Like. You can edit this out later. Just cut this out of the live stream. I'm just kidding. Analysis says practical under both investors. This is a lot of stuff about how we were idealistic and we were trying to help them, and everybody thought they would just liberalize on their own. We had to lose our relationship with Russia, our own national interests. Obviously, the way we conducted ourselves with Russia would determine whether or not Russia would be willing to cooperate with us on the world stage. But the broader question, nature of economic force, okay, things you kept in mind. The robbing of Russia was not conducted solely exclusively by Russians, but there was a lot of foreign participation. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, there you go. What we had to lose in our relationship with Russia were our own national interests. This part of it right here. There we go. Let's dive into this. Let's see if this is America. What we did was we raped this country of its natural resources. This is the idea that's what you're supposed to take away. What we had to lose in our relations with Russia were our own national interests. And obviously, the way we conducted ourselves with Russia would determine whether or not Russia would be willing to cooperate with us on the world stage. But the broader question of the nature of economic reform in that country was one in which the United States played an important role. And we created a virtual open shop for thievery at a national level and for capital flight in terms of hundreds of billions of dollars and the raping of natural resources and industries on a scale I doubt has ever taken place in history. And I think it must be kept in mind that the robbing of Russia was not conducted solely and exclusively by Russians, but there was a lot of foreign participation. I mean, we've recently seen some of the scandals involving some of the money laundering that took place in New York, but colossal sums of money left Russia into places like Singapore and Switzerland and Cyprus and the Bahamas and the south of France and all sorts of places. And for example, overnight, some of the Baltic republics became major exporters of commodities that they did not even produce, and it was large amounts of things like nickel and chromium and diamonds and timber and other commodities started appearing in world markets throughout all kinds of nefarious mechanisms in which enormous numbers of people made enormous amounts of money. And a lot of the money is not in Russians' hands, it's in foreign hands. A lot of the people around the world profited enormously from the raping of the Russian economy. I think many people in Russia sense that this is true, and so much of the resentment in Russian electorate against these economic policies is divided between the anger they feel towards some of their own oligarchs, their own political leaders, and the anger they feel towards the outside world. Well, the who lost Russia is really very conceited reflection of a notion that somehow Russia is ours to lose. You've been quoted as saying the question of who lost Russia is not the right question, but the question of who robbed Russia is legitimate. Talk to me about that. Well, who lost Russia is really a very conceited reflection of the notion that Russia is ours to lose. This is the we part by setting up an economic system and assuming that the democracy aspect of it would sort of take care of itself, that was naturalized to that. It's the same mistake we made with China, that you can't turn them into Democrats. You can't turn them into a democracy. We didn't create this on purpose. We ignored the political aspect, is what Ewing Mary
we set up in Russia after, and then here literally was Boris Yeltsin. Weeks before he told anybody in Russia, he sent a private note to President Bill Clinton, letting him know. Well, what was he going to let him know? He was letting him know that he was going to make it possible for Putin to be the next president. They're going to rig the election, and this is.
There's no election to rig. He was appointing his successor when he stepped down.
President Clinton said back. That's very good news. The only other thing I wanted to say was that we have had good contacts with Mr. Putin so far, and I look forward to meeting with him in Auckland. After that, we will stay in very close touch. I thank you for calling, Boris. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, so he wrote him a note, and in the note he fucking wrote him, he said, "Thanks for calling." You sure this isn't a transcript of a fucking phone call? Oh my God. Hold on. It says this guy. And then, hold on. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Yeltsin, Putin, Clinton. Let's see what it's yeah. Okay. Transitions in here. Okay, so scroll yeah. Putin's there he goes. Okay. Putin's a solid man. That's what he told him in this one. So this is from Radio Free Europe. This is from 2018. Putin's a solid man. Declassified members offer window into Yeltsin-Clinton relationship. A few items are missing, but readers can see how Yeltsin secretly told Clinton how Putin became his hand-picked successor. Secretly told Clinton how Putin became his hand-picked successor, and just how concerned U.S. officials were about Putin's ascendancy, the rollback of post-1991 reforms and re-centralization of power in the Kremlin. They were worried about this dude. Clinton didn't tell him. He told Clinton. And then, bink, the man who became the first senior party boss to quit the Communist Party, who faced down communist plotters from atop an armored personnel carrier and signed the breakup of the Soviet Union, chose a historic New Year's Eve to make his grand exit and try to assert control over a succession battle that could determine Russia's future for years to come. This is about Yeltsin wanting to be the kingmaker. By appointing Mr. Putin acting president today at a private Kremlin ceremony with a personal blessing by Alexei to the patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church, Mr. Yeltsin seemed to try to put a lock on Mr. Putin's succession to the presidency in an election that will be there 3 months from now on March 26th. According to the Russian Constitution, Mr. Putin will remain prime minister. Clinton didn't tell him he was going to happen. That was a phone call where they were like, Okay, yeah, okay, that's the guy you're gonna pick. Okay, well, all right, he seems fine. I guess we'll talk to him. We've had good talks. It was like water cooler conversation. Fucking hell.
So they're literally Boris Yeltsin's getting permission.
No, literally, he's fucking not.
To appoint Putin as president of the country and rig the election just like they did for him, and they did it.
As I did for him.
And the shocker in this exchange is that Clinton gives Yeltsin tacit approval to rig an election and put
That's not a fact from it. That's his opinion.
Putin in power. Okay, so
that's not even a logical reading of what the fuck he put up there.
Just so you know, that we could talk all day about the level.
No, you fucking can't. I'm already. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, by the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. Share the show. I'm new on the block, and these assholes have been around for a long time, and this is fucking embarrassing that this is what passes for discourse on these issues.
Of meddling the United States has done in Russia, which is why it's so.
Yeah, we didn't meddle in that. Yeltsin picked his own successor because he wanted to. He put the GRU, the KGB dude in.
Hilarious that everybody's been clutching their pearls for the last 5 years about Russian involvement in our elections. It's really black is.
No, it's distinctly different.
Right, up is down and in is out. So
yeah, as part of that deal, Jimmy.
Yes, Roman Abramovich was working for Yeltsin and recommended Putin. Yes, they were creating their own power base, Pez dispenser of control, and they weren't happy about the dissolution of the USSR, and so there were a bunch of people like, we'll put a strongman in place.
Boris Yeltsin asked Clinton to defend his invasion of Chechnya, or his incursion into Chechnya, and Bill Clinton proceeded to compare Boris Yeltsin in Chechnya to Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, very publicly. So,
hold on. Clinton, Yeltsin, Abraham Lincoln. That should be fairly easy to find, right? Trade compliments, play down differences. Moscow with hugs and handshakes. Yeltsin traded warm compliments and played down nagging differences on Sunday, insisting that their election year summit was not influenced by presidential politics. Both leaders facing re-election battles, Clinton and Yeltsin would not even entertain the possibility of a communist comeback in Russia. I'm sure that I will be victorious, Yeltsin boomed at the Kremlin news conference with Clinton. That makes my answer irrelevant, doesn't it? Clinton said with a smile. The Yeltsin under fire for the bloody fighting in the breakaway Republic of Chechnya. Clinton expressed sympathy with Russia's position and compared the situation to America's Civil War. Clinton said Abraham Lincoln gave his life with the proposition that no state had a right to withdraw from our nation, and so the United States has taken the position of Chechnya as a part of Russia. This was, and by the way, this is not, insofar as I know, Chechnya had newly started to pull away, but that became another thing. As to whether summit would help politically, Clinton said it's a great mistake to put too much of the political spin on, since typically foreign policy does not play a big role in voting patterns. After 5 hours of talk, Clinton and Yeltsin reported progress in resolving. So he didn't call him Abraham Lincoln. He just said that that's the position he's in, not like he's got the same traits as Abraham Lincoln. He's like, he's in the situation where, Lincoln said no state has the right to break away. Right.
Compare that to the U.S. rhetoric about Putin recognizing breakaway republics as independent.
Well, in this particular case, Chechnya was breaking away, and this was the breaking away of a section of another country. So it's wholly different. A part of your own country tries to break away. It's a different situation than if a country that you are not a part of has pieces of that you're trying to steal. That would be very distinct.
And so we helped engineer a coup.
No, we fucking well did not.
Through the democratically elected government in Ukraine.
They have a democratically elected government.
We helped do that. And a big part of that government is interwoven into their government is neo-Nazis. It's a
yes. Zelensky's a neo-Nazi. The people are there fighting for, this. Basically, all the people in Ukraine are fighting right now to support neo-Nazism. Yeah.
So after that, there was a ceasefire, right? And so they had the Minsk.
Minsk, and there was no ceasefire. They tried to make one. The Russians were insisting on one so that they could move in and take more territory.
I don't know why I can't say that. Minsk agreements. And there was supposed to be a ceasefire, a military withdrawal, and there were supposed to be elections held in rebel-held areas. But none of that happened, right? They never stopped shelling, and there wasn't a military withdrawal, and there was...
Yeah, say the ceasefire is always one side's fault.
Elections in rebel-held areas, right? So, again, it was Ukraine government, meaning, the proxy of...
You mean the actual fucking government of Ukraine?
United States and Europe that were breaking the agreement, correct, Max?
Yeah, Max, it was the Ukrainian government that didn't want parts of their country to break away, were really just acting as a proxy for the United States and Europe by trying to stop it and participating in the Minsk agreements, and the ceasefire failure was their fault.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was the Ukrainian government that broke the agreement, shelling.
Shelling the people who were shooting.
The Donetsk and Luhansk republics, prompting them to form their own self-defense militias. And if you actually look...
Oh, that's what it was. So they were shelling these areas, and they had to form these self-defense militias, made up, of course, of Russian operatives. And it's self-defense. They're the breakaway. They're trying to carve off a chunk of the country, but they had to defend themselves, just like the South had to defend itself.
UN statistics
use another civil
on
war.
Deaths, casualties. The lion's share is on the side of those in the Russian-speaking republics that comprise the region of Donbass. So 81% of deaths between 2018 and 2021 of civilian casualties were in the Donbass region. And so this is...
Wait a second. You're telling me that 80% of civilian deaths from warfare in Ukraine took place in the breakaway regions where the Russian separatists were engaging in all-out war to carve off a piece of the country? I would be shocked if it was flip-flopped. I'm just wondering why 20% of the war deaths happened in the part that was just a real country.
Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, bombing an area that the U.S. media and U.S. government considers Ukraine. But when he bombs them...
It is Ukraine.
And shells them with artillery and kills civilians, the U.S. media and the think tank hacks and the Biden administration and before that the Trump administration, they refer to that population as Russian separatists. And they basically...
Those people refer to themselves as Russian separatists.
Delete them as
Putin just recognized these areas as separate from the fucking country.
Yes. But
what
now
is this?
That Putin has been poised to recognize that population as independent.
And also, what the fuck is with Jimmy's like, yes, tell me how the United States is evil. Tell me how this is all the United States' fault. Right? Yes, Max, let your words wash over me. That the civilians being killed by the Russian separatists just have it coming because they're sock puppets for the United States. But the Russian little green men who are killed because they're firing from areas, God damn, this is stupid.
Place them under the protective umbrella of his military to stop these attacks, along with an assault on their language and their religion. And
yeah, that's what it is. This is bigotry.
Heritage. They are referred to as Ukrainians. So the U.S. would never have said, oh, Zelensky was bombing his own people the way they said that about Gaddafi or Assad. And now they're claiming...
Well, that's because these areas are very distinctly full of people that they can identify as being Russian separatists. The fucking fact that Putin just recognized these areas as land held by Russia, effectively, is why people recognize those areas. It's not just strafe bombing neighborhoods.
these are just Ukrainians, when for years the humanity of these people and their national identity was completely erased. I mean, the hypocrisy is staggering.
So here's what you were talking about. According to UN figures from 2018 to 2021, 81.4% of the civilian casualties in the Donbass war came in rebel-held territory. 16.3% were in Ukrainian government-controlled territory. So the point...
Yes, the group that is trying to steal the land, who is killing anybody who doesn't want them to do it on the land, and is firing at the people who are trying to keep them from stealing the land, are going to suffer the largest number of casualties. What the
he's
fuck?
Making is the same one you are, is that the people who are being killed
are the ones in the war zone.
Here are Ukrainians in the rebel-held area. So it's not... it's the Russian-speaking Ukrainians in the Donbass. It's not the people in...
No, it's not. There is no distinction of who's being killed, because a bunch of these people are Ukrainians who go back and forth in the area and don't want the areas to be separated and have been murdered by Russians who are trying to steal the land. And they don't want anybody there who will, when they finally have a vote, will vote against the separation. They've been hunting those people down. They are among the dead. And it's not because they fucking speak Russian.
Government-held territory.
Good Lord.
So this is considered, like kind of a slaughter in a sense, right? And
no, it's not fucking considered a slaughter. It's a territory that's been embattled for a long time.
So in fact, here's another. My study showed, this is from Ivan Kachkanavsky. He says, my study showed the same. Ukraine has mainly not been fighting Russia's armed forces in the Donbass. The vast majority of rebel forces consist of locals.
Weird. And Russia has been moving people into those regions over the last little bit. I mean, they're newly local, but who gives a fuck?
So, in fact, here this is in Foreign Policy magazine. Crucially, however, Ukraine has mainly not been fighting Russia's armed forces in the Donbass. Yes, Russia has armed, trained, and led the separatist forces, but even...
Oh, yes, they've just armed, trained, and led them. Russia has armed, trained, and led them. But basically, the mass of them are people that they brought there, right?
Kiev's own estimates, the vast majority of rebel forces consist of locals, not soldiers of the regular Russian military. Indeed,
Right. Nobody ever said that. There were sympathizers to King George still amongst the southern separatists that led to the Confederacy. They wanted to go back to a royal-based system. Federalists were breaking away from a group that thought that the south part should be under a church-like leader like the king, ordained by God. There was still a lot of talk about that in the American South, instead of this whole election bullshit. And
armed forces engaged directly in the fighting only twice, in August, September 2020.
Only twice. When the majority of deaths occurred.
2014 and January, February 2015, with limited capabilities, although both episodes ended in crushing Ukrainian defeats.
On their own fucking land by Russian forces. Do you think for a fucking second that if you asked Max and Jimmy about America doing something exactly like that, they'd be like, what? What's the big deal?
So this idea that they're fighting Russian soldiers and all that stuff, they're not. They're fighting locals.
They're fighting local militias, armed, trained, and led by the Russians with a promise of reward, essentially, of land and goods if they take the region. Murder.
Ukrainians. And as you pointed out, when it's convenient for the United States to consider
Good
them
Lord.
Russian separatists, they're Russian separatists when Ukraine is bombing them. But then when Russia acknowledges their independence, they all become Ukrainians. So, and here's an interesting, go ahead.
I actually just interviewed one of those fighters at the Gray Zone. You can just go to our YouTube channel. And he's actually a foreign fighter from Texas who volunteered with a...
Oh, I see. A local, then. A foreign fighter from Texas. You mean an American? The fuck? What? Who?
Our YouTube channel. And he's actually a foreign fighter from Texas who volunteered with a communist faction that formed a battalion within the...
What? Wait a minute. What the fuck? You just made the case that all these people are locals, and your one example of who you interviewed was a fucking Texan who's a communist who went there to what? Kill Ukrainians on behalf of Russia? What?
Donetsk People's Republic, and they fought against the Ukrainian regular military.
Yeah, asshole, not a local. What the fuck is that? How is an American from Texan, who an avowed communist? Good Lord. What?
And the extreme right-wing militias. His name is Russell Bentley. They call him Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, he sounds like a local. Russell Bentley. They call him Texas. He just came there to help the Russians murder Ukrainians. You're going to tell me this bullshit? Okay, I'm out. What the fuck? This is the root? What are you talking about?
Donetsk. And he fought with the Nova-Russian army, and he described to me what the situation was on the...
Wait, he fought with the Nova-Russian army. Good God. Did any of these assholes did they even hear the words coming out of their mouth? What the fuck?
There are no Russian forces there. Certainly Russia was supportive.
Yes, everyone's a local. What?
Of what they were doing. But they pulled...
There's basically foreign militias are attacking Ukraine on behalf of Russia.
Yeah, they're starting with pretty much nothing and have become a pretty formidable fighting force. But these are just local people on the ground there.
Yes, local people from around El Paso. The fuck?
And they were supposed to, according to the Minsk agreement, they were supposed to stop shelling them. And
yeah, according to the Minsk agreement, with the Texas subsidiary of the Russian militia. What?
To take their military out. They didn't do any of those things. And so after 8 years...
Yeah, Ukraine didn't take any of their military out of Ukraine. And so what choice do Texas communists have but to fly to Ukraine and murder people in a country they're not even citizens of? I mean, honestly.
Of them not following the agreement, finally, Vladimir Putin recognized them as separate countries, right? That's what happened?
Yeah, he just went, look, there's Tex, here is regular fellow. This is, I know these fellas. Who can't spot them? Hold on, this calls for, like a special guest star. Today that's all we're doing here, man. We're just here to recognize the true Ukrainian bloodline that ricochets through El Paso, Texas. This is what we're doing, this type of thing. You know, many people have not followed, but the Tsars have a rich history in the Houston area.
Right.
This is very good.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I mean, he lost 10 friends.
Yes, I mean, what more could you possibly? This is obviously what's happening. Nothing says organic movement to fight back against oppression like asshole from Texas flying in and shooting your neighbor.
To shelling and attacks. Many other friends had their legs blown off, their arms blown off.
Well, and it's even worse because they're from America, and America has no health care.
Yesterday, when I interviewed him, they were shelled.
Wait a minute. Yesterday, you interviewed a dude from Texas who's in the Donetsk region fighting Ukrainians. Yesterday. Fucking yesterday. You wouldn't happen to have his phone number, would you?
Near where he lives 5 miles from the front lines. They were.
Well, it sounds. I'm not going to shit you. 5 miles from the front line. That's going to be noisy.
With Grad rockets, which is, for the first time in years, Grad rockets.
Really? Grad rockets just out of fucking nowhere. Why would they do this? Why would the Ukrainians suddenly launch Grad rockets in retaliation for troops moving through the Donetsk and Luhansk regions? It's weird that all we do, we move a couple of battalions into these areas and open fire to, just test. We're just blowing up. We just want to see if the ground is hard. And they fire back at us for the first time in
as a message, I guess, to the Russians or.
Yes, it was. It was a message. It was a message. It was actually, we used a cootie catcher. We had to go pick one of these things. It was kind of like, what part of your country would you like text to take a giant shit in? L-V-I-V, and then we pick a color. Everybody picks purple. You're dead.
To the local population, but that's what they've been suffering for years. And that's just the military component. There's a political component, and the Russian-speaking population inside Ukraine has suffered massacres and oppression.
Yes, find the massacre. Jimmy Dore, we sent you massacre graphic. Go back to massacre graphic.
Example: the burning of protesters in the city of Odessa in broad daylight.
Dear God, burning protesters in broad daylight
by neo-Nazi forces.
Neo-Nazi forces are burning protesters in broad daylight. Well, it is cold there sometimes. I'm sure, Jimmy, pull up a picture. Show that. I mean, it's a nasty trigger warning, everyone. Trigger warning. He's going to show you a video right now. It's awful. Where they are stacking protesters like cordwood, and they're all singing a neo-Nazi theme song in Odessa.
Ran into a union hall and were burned alive by neo-Nazi forces after setting up a kind of Occupy tent-style protest. And we covered that.
So that's all they did. It was sort of like an Occupy Wall Street thing, but with Molotov cocktails. And then they ran into a building and were laying down covering fire or something. I'm sure it was simple. I'm sure it was that simple. Yeah.
Discussion. But this happened in broad daylight, and the U.S. and.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't want to do it at night. The light draws bears.
U.S. said nothing. So.
It's amazing. It's funny that you and Jimmy haven't said anything about this until just this second. And this happened many, many times ago.
Well, and I see you're about to.
Well, let me just
expound on
give.
that.
Yes, pull up. He is going to expound on that. He's going to show the video. Max, get ready. Trigger warning. Here comes.
People some more background. 1 in 6 Ukrainians is an ethnic Russian.
That's right. So bloodline. Look, 1 in 6 Ukrainians are incapable of living in democracy. You can't do it. They must be fed back to Mother Russia. It's not in their genes, okay? 5 out of 6 we should have killed in the Holodomor, but we didn't get a shot. Hopefully, better luck next time.
1 in 6 Ukrainians is an ethnic Russian, and 1 in 3 speaks Russian as a native language.
That's weird. It's almost as if Ukraine had been usurped by Russia up until 1991, and 1991 wasn't that fucking long ago. Weird.
So a third of the country speaks Russian as their first language.
That's so weird. You know what I mean? So why not let them kill you?
Which is something. That's really something. So you see.
It is something. Something. I don't know what that something is. It might be that they're fucking old.
It's a complicated issue, and there's much more.
Yes, it's complicated. It's all cultural. You know what I mean? And most Russian speakers and ethnic Russians, they can't handle democracy, guys. This is wrong.
To go
Free
into
markets kill them.
but here is a poll.
This is very exciting. I love polls. Well, only when they're not in NATO.
This is from As Per Reports. It says what Ukrainians feel. 70% reject one people thought, meaning that Ukraine.
They don't believe in ethnic Ukraine. They believe in a free Ukraine.
Are all one. Even though that's what Zelensky said when he was running for office, he said that they were all one. 72% consider Russia a hostile state.
You're just going to breeze right past that, I hope. That's not 72. That's pretty fucking a little. Personally, I feel hurt with this type of thing. You're just going to jump right.
33.3% are ready to take.
Wait, sorry. You're not going to expound on that, Jimmy Dore? Jimmy Dore, why are you not expounding? Expound a little. You go there.
When he was running for office, he said that they were all.
That's right. When Zelensky, the neo-Nazi Jew, when he was running for office, he said this. He said there are one people and 70% reject this, even though he won the election by about that much. But thank you for expounding on that first detail. Now expound on the second.
72% consider Russia a hostile state. 33.3% are ready.
Wait, Jimmy, why you jump straight past that one? What do you mean hostile state? Why won't you expound? It's weird. You start talking about that. What's this?
Take up arms against Russia. 21% are ready to stage civil resistance. 67% want to join the European Union.
67%. That's in the democracy. These are two big mandates. Russia's a hostile state at 72%. 67% want to join the EU.
But I mean, that also means that 33% don't, which is, and then
that's so weird that it does mean that 33% don't. Glad you brought that up.
Just like 1 in 3. 59% want to join NATO. Right? Which
wow, also a significant number. I mean, that's pretty high. I'm guessing if you ask that question now, the number is slightly higher.
And then again, 40% don't. So
yes, right. This is really about the not. You know what I mean? Don't get fooled by the big orange parts. By the way, Jimmy, just so you know, using your logic, 33% are ready to take up arms against Russia, but the 77% are too old, they're too small. 21% are ready to stage civil resistance against them, which means the rest of them are not. And yet, they want to be a part of the EU and they want to be part of NATO, and they view Russia as a hostile state. They just don't want to have to kill anybody who's Russian. I wonder if this poll is the same in the Kremlin right now.
I think we lost Max. I think we lost Max's.
Oh no! It's the text came for him.
Oh, here he's back.
No, you got me. I'm just letting some guests in.
Oh, okay. So. I didn't know what you were doing. So
don't do it. Don't do it. I don't trust them. Don't let them in, Max.
I just want to give people a background. So now you get how many people are actually ethnic Russians. A third of the country.
Yes, and ethnic Russians cannot understand democracy. They don't have the capability for it. They are absolutely bred and born to be communist. And or be serfs under czars. They can't. I mean, you can't have one or the other. You can't be those things and be okay with a government that reflects your values that you participate in. It's not possible.
Their first native language is Russian, and so. Did you see this, Max? I thought this was interesting. So this guy, Kit Clarenberg, tweeted out, he said, probably just a coincidence that a 2016 RAND paper, now RAND is the organization that
is Ron's son.
It works for the Pentagon, right? So they work for the Pentagon. It's a paper strategizing around war with China stressed the need for a NATO buildup in Eastern Europe in order to take out Russia or at least prevent it from assisting Beijing. And months later, NATO troops arrived in the region in droves.
That's so weird in 2016 because months after that, Trump took them out. So good. It kind of evened out.
And so here, I'll see if we can read it. It's just NATO could neutral. So international response could, on balance, also favor the United States in a long and severe war. They're literally talking about war with Russia.
Well, you do realize that the Rand Corporation and the DoD, their entire job is to run games and figure out and deal with threats before they arrive. We do the same thing. I'm just saying, we do it all the fucking time. We bought an old piece of gear from you guys back in the 80s called the WOMP. And it didn't work so well for you guys, but we call him Joshua, and he's very good. A little robot friend of mine. He rolls around and he plays tic-tac-toe. Hopefully that's all he does.
Support of the U.S. and East Asian allies could hurt China's military chances. Responses of Russia in...
Oh no, that's terrible. Hurting China's military chances. That's not what we're shooting for. You must undermine the freedom of the individual Chinese and put them under the Starbucks doctrine.
And NATO would have less impact. And NATO could neutralize Russian opportunistic threats in Europe. So
yes, neutralize Russian opportunistic threats in Europe. This sounds very suspect to me. This is what you are trying to do. It's very scary. You might just know it. You know what you can't, like, we don't want our threats neutralized before we ever get a chance to threaten someone. That sucks.
Go. So I'm going to talk more.
Hold on. Japan's entry would be likely if the nation were party to the underlying dispute and almost certain if its territory, where U.S. bases are, were attacked. With Tokyo's more permissive interpretation of constitutional limits on the use of force and programmed improvements in Japanese military capabilities, Japan's entry could make a difference by 2025, and the course and results of the heightened turmoil in the Middle East could be harmful to both Chinese and U.S. interests. What? Wait a minute. What the fuck are you hiding behind your weird shoulder in your French cuffs? Expect to not know that you are some sort of bourgeois freak. Hiding, pretending to be Marxist, you're not. This part seems weird that you didn't read this. Japan's entry could make a difference by 2025 in the course and results of heightened turmoil in the Middle East could be harmful to both Chinese and U.S. interests. Heightened turmoil in the Middle East could be harmful to both Chinese interests, Chinese and U.S. Why would they want to destroy? It sounds like they're just working out every possible thing.
How bad the news has been reporting this, but...
Yes, I know my Russian accent is awful. I've been living amongst Americans in Ohio under the name Dave for a long time.
Is there anything... So I hope people are getting what's going on. I hope...
No one understands what the fuck you're on about. You have made nothing but sense. Hold on. Hi, I'm going to come back to normal on this. He has literally made no ground in any of this bullshit except to blather out a shitty version of Tucker Carlson's
I'm communicating nonsense. It, or Max and I are communicating it clearly. Again, it's...
No, you're both just Putin apologists shitting this nonsense out. Max is pretending to know more than you are, but you are just cobbling together a bunch of bullshit, and even the people in your studio don't know what the fuck you are talking about.
The United States meddled in Ukraine. We actually assisted a coup overthrowing the democratically elected.
The fuck we did.
Government. Now that government is infiltrated with neo-Nazis. They've never adhered to the agreement that we...
Yeah, why won't they stop shelling when they're being shelled? Why won't they just let Russia have the land? Why won't they
agreement from 2014, which meant that they were supposed to stop shelling these people,
Yeah, stop shelling the people who were shooting the people.
In eastern Ukraine. They haven't done it. And so finally, after 8 years of them shelling the...
Excuse me, Jimmy, it's not eastern Ukraine. These are Russian separatist territories, and they have been recognized by Vladimir Putin before you have made this video.
Out of them, they've killed 14,000 people.
No, they didn't kill 14,000 people. There was a battle. 14,000 died. The majority of people died in those regions, but they weren't all separatists. The separatists killed a shit ton of Ukrainians who weren't on their side.
Putin says, hey, stop it. If you guys don't want to reach them, if you're not going to follow our diplomatic agreement, we're going to now say that we're recognizing them and we could...
Yeah, if you don't follow our agreement, which was one-sided and given by force under a different administration, that allows us to take your land, then I'm sorry, but we're going to have to invade.
To help them militarily. So is that, and so this idea that somehow the United States are the good guys here, or we're protecting democracy, or that we have the right to sanction anybody over any.
P.S. By the way, all of Europe, even Switzerland is on board at this point. India and China both abstained from the UN Security Council vote rather than vote with us, but not for Russia. So the full vote went today. I don't know what the outcome of the full vote to sanction Russia was, but it made it through because these guys were like, all right, enough. I mean, we got to deal with these assholes, so we're not going to jump on board, but we're not going to back them either.
Is crazy and ridiculous.
No, it's fucking well not.
Anything else you want to add, Max, to this part?
Yeah, just the idea that there's a moral case for supporting Ukrainian democracy is ridiculous. I mean, when you...
Yes, the idea that there is a moral case for supporting Ukrainian democracy is ridiculous. You should just let them get run over by Russia because they have a full and free environment. What you want is Ukrainians to be jailed for protesting the same way Russians are. The Russian system is the winning system.
All of this up.
Fucking hell.
3 TV.
By the way, these two guys, two of, former member of TYT, only broomed because one of TYT's supporters shot some cops, including one in the head and leaving him paralyzed forever and spitting on people and being an asshole. So they broomed him because they wanted to distance themselves from what they had basically fomented and created. Biggest supporters of Bernie Sanders that existed. And this is where they are now. Now, you can either believe that morally they've had this weird flip-flop over time, or you can know that this is who they always were, and they were never, they never meant well in any of this shit. It was a power
were shut down by the Ukrainian government because they were considered pro-Russian.
You mean the RT stations?
Right.
And their station directors and owners were arrested and put on trial for sedition. There was...
Right. Because they used to be a Russian puppet state.
Oh, court process. They are arresting opposition figures. There have been opposition parties that have been considered pro-Russian. Their leaders are getting arrested. Activists.
Their leaders are getting arrested. The ones that are taking up arms.
Arrested, including gay rights activists have been attacked by these neo-Nazi militias. The Gay Pride Parade.
Yes, you mean the ones that are illegal in Russia because the neo-Nazis that you're talking about are actually Russian-backed?
Kiev it always comes under attack by these militias. Amnesty International said that no one is safe as long as these militias are rampaging across
militias, by the way.
Ukraine. Then you have the issue of corruption. You have the fact that
no one is safe as long as these militias are rampaging across Ukraine.
Ukraine has seen more migrant outflow than any other country in Europe. It's become the poorest country in Europe. And that means that the East has...
Yes, because the Russians were trying to undermine the economy and kill it effectively so they could take it over.
Systematically de-developed. The Ukrainian government has sought to cause a...
And Jimmy is melting or peeling himself away?
Drought in Crimea by erecting dams to prevent them from accessing water on the other side because Russia annexed Crimea. The list goes...
Right. So they weren't going to take Ukrainian water if it's your fucking country, if you steal that land from us. What? Of course.
On and on and on. The official language of Ukraine was Ukrainian and Russian, and the Ukrainian Duma, this parliament that's overrun with ultra-nationalists, has moved to strip Russian.
By the way, you're an ultra-nationalist again if you don't let Russia take part of the country.
As an official language.
That's
the
the
Russian
standard.
Orthodox Church has come under attack. The church that most people follow in the East who are Russian speaking. So it's an entire panoply.
By the way, the Russian Orthodox Church that you see in downtown Kyiv, that is one of the prettiest buildings down there. One of the ones, by the way, that Zelensky stood in front of to show that it's still standing and it hasn't been harmed.
Of attacks on this population that makes their life completely untenable within the U.S. and NATO neo-colony of Ukraine.
And isn't it interesting?
Oh, at least he's more generous. It's a U.S. and NATO neo-colony of Ukraine.
That
Fuck, man.
People actually talk about a war with China and that this might have something to do with that, like to make sure we have a puppet state and we have our military accessible. Because look at these headlines. So Washington must prepare for...
Again, pivoting to Asia and forgetting about Europe isn't an option. This is an expert's point of view on current events argument. This is somebody's argument. This is Matthew Koenig's, it's blurry, deputy director for the Atlantic Council's Showcroft Center for Strategy and Security. So this dude's job is to game out geopolitical threats.
With both Russia and China. What in the... Are you pivoting to Asia and forgetting about Europe? Isn't an option? This is really... Here's another one. What comes after a war on terrorism? War on China. What the F?
That's a question mark. What comes after the war on terrorism? War on China? That seems to be a concern by Thomas Friedman, but I don't know the article. Let's see. Fuck, man. We've dealt with this bullshit so long. I'm now tired of just chasing his nonsense. What comes... Whoops. I can type. After the war on terrorism. There's something in there. This is September 8th, 2021. He wrote this out. Friedman, what comes... welcome to Times Press. Okay, shit. It's Chattanooga Free Press? Where is this? What comes after the war on terrorism? War on China? The U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan after a failed 20-year nation-building exercise left many Americans saying, if only we knew back then what we know now, we'd go down that path. I'm not sure that's true, but it nevertheless raised the questions. What are we doing today in foreign policy that we might look back 20 years from now and say, if only we knew back then what we know now, we would have never gone down that path? That's it. Read full article. Fuck, man. He's against it. What are we're doing in foreign policy that we might look back in 20 years from now and say, if only we knew back then what we know now, we would have never gone down that path? My answer can be summed up in one word: China. And my fears can be summed up in a few paragraphs. 40 years from 79 to 2019 were epic in U.S.-China relations, many ups and downs, but all in all, it was the epic of standard. The depth of U.S.-China integration helped fuel much deeper globalization of the world economy. He's for it, essentially. The era of U.S. globalization left some U.S. manufacturers unemployed while opening huge new export markets for others. It lifted out of poverty hundreds of millions of people in China. In short, the relative peace and prosperity that the world experienced in those 40 years cannot be explained without reference to the U.S.-China bonding. For the past 5 years, though, United States and China have been stumbling down a path of de-integration and maybe towards outright confrontation. In my view, it is China's increasingly bullyish leadership style at home and abroad. That's not about us. The fuck? Does this asshole read anything he posts? And when was this article? When did this come out? 2021. Okay, yeah. These two giants went from doing a lot of business on the table and occasionally kicking each other under the table, doing a lot less business on the table, kicking each other a lot harder under the table. All right. But before we transition from co-opetition, all right, to confrontation with China, we should ask ourselves some hard questions. Why do we need to do this? Do we need to fight back? Like, he's actually worried about it. He doesn't want this. Fuck, this is dumb.
Here, America must prepare for war with China or...
David Sauer, opinion contributor. The views expressed by contributors are their own and not the views of The Hill. America must prepare for war with China over Taiwan. David Sauer. Okay, who's David Sauer? Hold on. Head of someone. Okay, hold on. America must prepare. Whoops. This is The Hill. This is the actual article. Let's see. Okay. China's massive investment in the People's Liberation Army may show China is preparing to fundamentally change status quo. Taiwan is of vital geopolitical importance. Perhaps most importantly, Taiwan is the center for advanced semiconductor production. Time is not on our side, Taiwan minister said. By 2025, China will bring the cost of attrition to its lowest. It has capacity now, but it will not start a war easily, having to take many other things into consideration. China's calculus about using force against Taiwan is a complex one involving but not limited to internal stability, Taiwan development's military dynamics. The Chinese Communist Party has created a popular nationalistic narrative. She will strive to ease tensions in Sino-American relations to ensure a successful Winter Olympics. Beijing does not want a Taiwan president to be succeeded in 2024 by her vice president, Lai Ching-te. Lai is a popular politician who is deeply committed to human rights and Taiwan sovereignty. Terrible. Okay. Oh, and by the way, this is how it goes on it. Taiwan needs to prepare its people for conflict, ensuring it has enough emergency supplies to survive a Chinese onslaught. Increasing Taiwan security services resources to gather intelligence on China, as well as to investigate and disrupt China's efforts to further develop and use fifth column forces in Taiwan, is also urgently needed. This is about protecting Taiwan, which he also probably,
over like, Taiwan. So people really, Russia keeps door open after
U.S. rejects key security. Guys, Russia's keeping the door open, okay? They're keeping it open. Russia. Now, granted, Jimmy is picking this clip and showing it. Russia keeps door, Jimmy door open. Maybe he takes this personally. I should get that was February 14th. Hold on. This is January 27th. Yeah, here it is. This is from the union leader. Russia keeps door open after U.S. rejects key security demands. Moscow said on Thursday it was clear the United States was not willing to address its main security concerns, but kept the door open for further dialogue in their standoff over Ukraine. Meanwhile, Peskov said Moscow has massed tens of thousands of troops near Ukraine, which is, just an act of good faith. Good Lord.
So, by the way, I just wanted to show you this. I just want
to show you I just want to show you this title that says they're keeping the door open. They're keeping it open, guys.
So do you think that that's true? That this has also something to do with the China war that they want to start?
They don't want to start it. They're worried about it starting.
Well, this has to do with the fact that the Pentagon and the entire national security state apparatus needs to constantly justify its budget, which keeps exploding.
No, it doesn't. We keep adding money, and we just got out of a war and we added money.
And what are you talking about? Beyond war on terror numbers,
thanks.
Beyond not.
Hold on. Somebody asked in the super chat, China, is that all you got? I know, Richard. This is fucking ridiculous.
11 numbers. And it's the perfect thing to justify all of their bureaucratic priorities. And by the way,
Yes, that's why they want war with China. China's an innocent victim in this, and so is Russia. They just want to, it's all about bureaucracy.
Pentagon budget, like over 50% is spent on contractors. It's spent on people who don't even, participate in any of these wars. It's just
Yeah, contractors that make shit. What?
It's military Keynesianism, so they have to maintain the threat. And whether it's Russia or China, the Pentagon is...
Yeah, we made Russia do this.
One of the most, if not the most powerful lobbies in Washington. They spend very little on actual lobbying, but they basically control the media.
Yeah, it's easy. They don't have to do any lobbying. Russia's doing all the lobbying for them. China's threats are doing all their lobbying. North Korea does a lot of lobbying for Lockheed Martin and Raytheon by launching missiles. It's amazing.
They have their tentacles.
It's a product that sells
the entire
security, the product that sells itself.
Economy of Washington, the whole DC area, and the country. So this speaks to and many of these people who are writing these op-eds you see in the Hill or
Max, you're even losing Jimmy at this point.
The Washington Post.
Something happened.
Many of them are fellows at think tanks. Like the foreign policy op-ed was written by someone from the Institute for the Study of War. This is a think tank funded almost entirely by the arms industry, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, the companies that.
It's weird. It's almost like Starbucks hires coffee tasters.
Supplying the Javelin missiles to the Ukrainian military. Ukraine's basically like this giant dump for a bunch of American weapons that they'll never use. They haven't even.
Yeah, they're not going to use any of these Javelins. None of these weapons are going to be meaningful in this. They're just leaving them there.
Taking these missiles out of their boxes. They're just sitting in warehouses.
Yeah, they haven't even, guys, let's see. U.S. Javelins in Ukraine, tanks, something like that. Images. Let's see. That'll do something. Let's see. Ukraine war. Whoops. Hi. Green close. Ukraine war. Saint Javelin and the missile that has become a symbol of Ukraine's resistance. One of the dudes from the Lincoln Project's always posting a picture of this. Mary Magdalene, okay, related to Ukraine's. They're using these things. That's the St. Javelin thing. There's going to be, there you go. Hey, it's Ukrainians firing javelins. Javelin's warhead is excellent. The missiles can set to fly in a diving attack profile so that it impacts the less well-protected roof of the target vehicle. It's an inspired choice to send those particular things in. Let's see. Ukraine armored column. Something like that. Probably something in there. So these guys are coming in. They're not, I don't know why they're going to want these javelins for that shit. The Russian columns of tanks. Russia warns of horrible conflict if Georgia joins NATO. This happens all the time. Lone Ukrainian force tries to stop column of Russian Z armored cars in echo of Tiananmen Square tank. Yipes. Roadblock. Lone Ukrainian tries to stop. Oh, this is the guy who is standing in front of these things. The individual guy walking in front of these things, trying to get them to this. These are all coming into Ukraine. That dude. So yeah, they're never going to take him out. And again, this is at the beginning. This is right after Putin declared this region as the separatist regions as independent, and then sent in peacekeepers.
Is around Kiev. If they take them to the east and start hitting Russian tanks, they're just going to be wiped out. The Ukrainian military is a joke.
Yeah, the Ukrainian military is a joke, guys.
But they have imported. I mean, in December, the Biden administration authorized $200 million, I believe.
Yes.
In $200 million in new weapons shipments to Ukraine. But the total number is something like $6 billion. So it's just, they're job creators.
Yes.
Keeping this conflict going, it's job creators for a U.S. economy.
Yeah, they're not sending these things because those folks are going to need them. They're just sending them to sell them.
That's just this dying carcass.
And I just wanted to show that it hasn't been Russia that has turned their back on negotiation. Of course, right?
Yeah, it wasn't them. They're the peacekeepers. That's why they called them peacekeepers. They're called peacekeepers for a reason.
So here, Russia keeps door open after
United. Yeah, they kept. Yeah, after the U.S. rejected the idea that Russia gets to dictate what sovereign countries can do.
It rejects key security demands. That was from January 27th. Ukraine won't settle for dialogue with rebels. That's
so terrible. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba on Monday refused direct negotiations with rebels in the east of the country. This is, by the way, as the buildup is happening.
Ukraine. foreign minister says won't settle for dialogue with rebels. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba.
Yeah, all they want to do is talk at the, with the 10,000 tanks pointed at them.
On Monday, refused direct negotiations with rebels in the east of the country. What?
What did he do that for? Why would he do such a thing?
Here's another one. U.S. and NATO rule out halt to expansion, reject Russia's demands. Well, who,
oh my
you
God.
tell me.
Yeah, you tell me. What does Russia have to do? They can't just let a sovereign country make its own decisions, especially if it feels threatened, to join a group of people so that it feels safer. Well, that's ridiculous. Look, I don't care if she wants to somebody to watch her as she walks home at night. That can't be. She's got to walk home in the dark, and that's my decision. Why? Because I'm her ex, and I get to say so. And she can't own a gun. What? Yeah, she has to walk home at night, and she can't own a gun, and nobody can be with her when she walks by herself. Why? Because she used to be with me. She's not anymore. Yeah, but I get to tell her who she can date and where she can go, and if she doesn't, I can kill her in the dark. And if you don't allow me that opportunity, then you're violating my right to peace talks. What?
Who is pushing for a confrontation? It's the West.
Yeah, they're pushing for confrontation by not allowing Russia to surround Ukraine.
United States. Ukrainian foreign minister rejects special status for areas controlled by separatists.
Right. It's their fucking country. The separatists are Russian, armed, trained, and led. Fuck you.
From February. So
it's, the peace is really up to the Americans and to the NATO and the EU. Why won't they just let Russia take Ukraine and do what they want with the people of Ukraine? They used to have control of them, and it used to be fine. They used to do all the stuff they do in Russia, but on this land. And now they don't want to do it anymore.
Again, I've seen the reason why I'm showing you all this is because I can't believe how bad the coverage has been on this.
Yes, I can't believe how bad the coverage has been in this fucking video.
Even from people on YouTube, right? Especially, or
dear God, man. This, singularly, this is the dumbest fucking take. Even, Tucker Carlson has started to backpedal and go, well, I didn't mean that in some cases.
Especially. Maybe especially from people on YouTube. Everybody was laughing at Kyle Kalinski's unbelievably horrible take the other day.
Oh, were they? I haven't seen that one. But if it's in contrast to what you're saying, it might be a broken clock moment for Kyle Kalinski.
On this. And, well, here, let's show you.
What was the idea that he floated that was so bad, Jimmy? If you're going to dunk on him for a second, what was the essence of his argument? That NATO expansion should be up to a country to make its own fucking decision, and that if Russia thinks it can invade them to stop it, it's lunacy and dangerous and murderous and imperialistic expansion, colonialism.
Here's some mainstream news media that's just stoking the fans.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Yeah. U.S. says Russia's compiling a list of Ukrainians to be killed or sent to camps following a military occupation. The allegation is a letter sent to the UN sent Sunday and obtained by the Washington Post. Okay. Is that false?
This is from the Washington Post writer, a scoop from John Hudson. He says, U.S. says Russia is compiling a list of Ukrainians, quote, to be killed or sent to camps following a military occupation. The allegation is in letter to the UN sent Sunday and obtained by the Washington Post. My latest. And I love, so Aaron Mate had perfect response. He said, jokes aside.
Yeah. Again, why is this the Jimmy Dore show when when Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate are apparently he's just reading their shit?
Frank says one of the most cynical and offensive U.S. intelligence propaganda attempts ever. Up there with the Gaddafi's mass Viagra pills or Kuwaiti babies being seized from incubators.
Jokes aside, this ranks as one of the most cynical and offensive U.S. intelligence propaganda attempts ever. Because it's not true? Are you're alleging that it's not true based on what? Because you just don't believe it? Because the Washington Post is posting it? I mean, they've got to print a retraction. You guys can just move on and act like
for that
nothing ever happened.
Those are good times. So they're still doing it. So when you go to
yes, whatever Bush was doing, Biden's doing that. It doesn't
that's
matter.
the thing.
America's always run by.
They would tell you the truth
America's
about it,
always run
usually.
by bad guys. That's the idea. Fucking hell.
But now they're all telling you bullshit about it. So, of course, not over at the gray zone. You guys are getting it right over there and pushback. Correct? You guys are getting
yeah.
All right, good. All right.
Yeah, and we're hitting all the algorithms on YouTube. I mean, they're just bumping us up at the top of everybody's feed.
He's even doing the shadow banned bullshit that the right does all the time.
Counteracting all the war propaganda you see.
So, and what does this tell you? This tells you that your government.
What does this tell me? I'm just returning from the Munich Security Conference where national security leaders from the U.S. and Europe gathered to confront the Ukraine crisis. Some good news. I'm honestly never seen more unity among our allies or our two parties in Congress on any global issue. It's one of two things. Occam's razor or Occam's rubber mallet. It's either because it's such a clear-cut case of evil or it's a giant conspiracy to eat poor Russia.
When this guy tweets this out, that he just got back from the Munich Security Conference, and I've honestly never seen more unity among our allies or our two main parties in Congress on a global issue, talking about Ukraine. That's horrible. And
he's not just some guy.
He's not just some guy. Putin appeases and apologists say we could avoid a war by giving into his demand that Ukraine never join NATO. That's a pretty reasonable demand, by the way.
No, it isn't. That's up to Ukraine. You can't allow him to dictate what a sovereign country wants to do. We can't even. What are we going to do? Like, no. Somebody's outside the cabin. There's a bear approaching. You promised you wouldn't let them in the cabin. You just let the bear eat them, is the idea. How is this? It's not reasonable at all. If the threat is unreasonable, the response is reasonable.
Forgot Ukraine made that promise in 2010, and Russia still invaded it 4 years later. What is that?
What's that about? What is that? They didn't invade it. We did a coup and put neo-Nazis in charge, guys.
What happened between 2010 and 2014? It's like Russia just invaded it for fun.
Paul Manafort.
We're just.
And by the way, Jimmy doesn't even fucking know what he's laughing at right there. And you can tell. He's laughing because he thinks he should, or there's some sort of idea that this is absurd on its face. But he doesn't know what the fuck is going on. He doesn't know any of the history of this. He doesn't give a shit about the history of this. He doesn't know, and he's been pushing back against what he calls Russiagate, protecting Trump for so long that he can't even look at the Manafort connection to Yanukovych or any of that crowd.
Board of Russia, let's get some.
So here's some
new stuff.
Here's some more of the Washington Post press. Here's New York Times. Now this to me also rubbed me the wrong way. Two Republicans running for Senate in Ohio have taken sharply different positions over the Ukraine-Russia crisis. It's a skirmish that pits Trump-style America First isolationists against more traditional hawkish Republicans. What? They somehow made hawkish Republicans try to sound nice. Did you hear that?
No, they're saying isolationist like fuck it all versus hawkish on Russia in particular. It's a weird split for that party, not for life.
Isn't that amazing? Can you believe that's amazing to me. I don't know. You have any response to that?
That's because do you have any response to that? Can you fill it in? It's amazing to me. Can you say something worth saying? Because I got nothing.
Yeah, the Democrats are freaking out that there is a faction within the Republican Party that doesn't want to send all the boys from Scranton to Spokane to fight and die for some U.S. neo-colony thousands of miles away.
Yeah, that's what we're worried about. That's the guys from Scranton. That's why Biden has said we're not sending troops in there. And also the other geopolitical aspects of World War III if NATO intervenes in a country that isn't NATO and what that entails. Like, it's just childish.
That's terrifying to them.
That is.
And so they're siding with the traditional hawkish Republicans. Lindsey Graham who said it would be worthwhile to kill a lot of Koreans in order to teach North Korea a lesson. That's their new hero. He's their new John McCain.
Yeah. So
what do you mean? Yeah. What the fuck?
That's how so if you're against war, they have to pay you as some kind of crazy isolationist Trumper. So
no, you don't. Unless, well, maybe his entire audience is made up of Trumpers. That may be where we are at this point. That he may be talking to his demographic. He sees his analytics. He knows who watches his show. He knows the majority of viewers that he has, and they're certainly not what you would consider traditional lefties or Democrats at this point. Because I mean, look at his comment about Bernie Sanders earlier.
Anybody who's against war in Ukraine is a crazy isolationist Trumper.
No, he's talking about sending troops in particular. That's a split in the Republican Party. What they're saying is it's an odd split for them to have, not in the conversation overall.
Why don't you just go be a nice war hawk? All right.
But they're traditional. They're traditional. They're
very, very.
It's like more American.
It is traditional for Republicans
to want.
Yeah. We traditionally like
have a nuclear war. We traditionally are like Dr. Strangelove.
Fuck, man, that was a tooth pull. Lord almighty. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. I went long by a lot on that one, but I just I had to deal with that at some point. Just ridiculous. And that was, again, in leading up to Can we have like a palate cleanser after that shit? I know I'm supposed to get off the air, but I just feel like we need something just giggles at this point. Mike Lindell at CPAC getting interviewed and blowing a fuse.
All right, we're cutting in. We're cutting in because Mike Lindell is now debating a reporter with Vice News. So we are cutting in.
Yes, we're cutting in. This is, and by the way, debating is the word for it. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, by the way. When I put a clip up, I got to do the whole goddamn thing. And even if it's just like the Jimmy Dore one is just a fucking long waste of time. Sorry, but I needed to confront a lot of that bullshit. I would be really interested if he ever retracts any of that hateful shit. And basically, Jimmy Dore is the Mike Pillow of the left at this point. So is the theory.
You journalists are the biggest rottenness. You ask about why don't you ask about Dominion? You want to talk about Dominion and Smartmatic? Why don't you guys go after them? Why do you about Dominion? They're the biggest crime families. Dominion, Smartmatic, ES&S, Hart, Diebold.
Right, Diebold, ES&S. ES&S is the company that does all the voting machines in Texas, by the way. And for the record, that's the dude from Mike Lindell's first movie when we covered that brought up, let me make sure I have it. Hold on. I do somewhere. It's under the wow. There we go.
It's a malware called Q-Snatch.
That's right. He's the guy who brought up how they stole the jokes, stole the votes and from Trump and turned them into Biden votes or some shit in Texas, and that Texas was the worst because of right. That's where that came from.
Used China attacked our country, took your country you say you're part of, and you don't give a dang about it.
I care, of course I care.
No, you don't. Then why do you appeal? Then really, then why are you attacking me instead of Dominion?
How have I attacked you? I've asked you.
Why? Yes, if you don't care about, why are you attacking me instead of Dominion? Maybe because I've listened to your argument about Dominion and it's bullshit. Maybe that's why. Maybe because you're an asshole. Maybe I'm and again, I'm guessing all this dude was ask him a question too, because it doesn't seem like this dude's shouting back at him.
Something about some Q. Don't you have bigger things in the news? Why don't you ask me about the helicopter? Why don't you ask me about the parachutes that are going into Canada right now with pillows? Remember that?
He's helicoptering it. He's parachuting pillows in to Canada. Like a true patriot.
Where's your other buddies from the Daily Beast?
Where's the parachutes? What parachutes?
But then
Isn't Zach from Salon or some shit?
Read the news, right? You guys
I don't read
attack me.
whatever news
No,
you're
really?
talking about.
What
I
news
don't
do you
know.
read? Your own news, right? You guys are a horrible, horrible, horrible outlet.
Just, you know, in the true Christian fashion of just repeating the word horrible about someone and freaking out. Whatever.
So just to be clear, you're attacking me. I'm asking you questions.
You came up to me. I was taking pictures with these great people. You come up to me.
They are yelling fight. That's what it's come to, guys. I'd like to do me a favor real quick if you could. I'm gonna do it with you. Take a deep breath. Let it fill your lungs and go out. It's such a good feeling to know that this asshole who was in the White House a little over a year ago, trying to come up with a plan to subvert our democracy and foment a shit revolution that would lead to an attack on the Capitol, is now surrounded by assholes yelling fight as he talks to a Vice reporter at CPAC while it has some of the lowest attendance it's ever had.
You're a rotten journalist like every other person in this country that's a journalist.
You're a rotten journalist like every other person who's a journalist in this country. I mean, how much more clarity and good Christian charity could you hope for? You're a rotten journalist just like you're a rotten person like every other journalist in this country.
Journalism has left our country. If you'd sit here, why don't
journalism has left our country. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Thank you very much. Journalism has left the building. All right. Thank you very much.
ask me about the evidence, like the president just said. In Georgia, 242 people ballot harvested felonies. It just came out. Why don't you talk about the decertification of Arizona? Why don't you talk about the WEC in Wisconsin that committed felonies during the election? Why don't you talk about Pennsylvania?
I've done that. I've covered all those from your show. None of them amount to a hill of beans. And I still make the argument that in all those cases, those are Trump votes.
You're doing quite a hell of a job.
No, only because of you guys. See, at least you guys, I'll give you this. I'm going to give you this.
You have your own TV station. I don't know if we need it, but
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell everybody this. We want to thank the rotten media because without them, we wouldn't be here right now. I used them for a whole year.
Yes, that's right. Without the rotten media, we wouldn't be outside the Pensacola Ballroom in Orlando listening, having just left a speech by Trump that was an identical blather to the shit he said for the last year.
They attacked me, but at least I was able to get the word out. Fox turned on. Fox is the word.
Yes, he was able to get the word out, or at least into the Pensacola Ballroom.
I will say that. You're one step above Fox.
That's all right. All right, well, thank you for your time, sir.
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you. Even though God bless you, I just called you a terrible, terrible person because you asked me 2 questions and you wouldn't allow a follow-up. It's adorable. That's good. Okay, so there's so much stuff. There's so much. Oh, this is long. There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff to do.
Go through the facts on all of the things that have happened, and then I want to, over the next couple of hours, pull this apart and look at this one piece at a time because it.
Yes, one piece at a time of the pulled pork of the things that don't make sense about Putin, Russia, and Ukraine. All right, I'm continuing. I'm just going to do this. I just have to. I need
feel right.
Like the fucking Jimmy Dore thing was just aggravating. It was so goddamn long that it ate up too much of my time. But I don't want, again, I'm not taking stuff out of context and doing a piece of something. It's a matter of pride.
To me. So let's just go over the facts first. Let's start February.
Let's go. Facts first. That's important. Thank you. Little House on the Prairie, Glenn Beck. Is that the outfit this is wearing? Is this the There Will Be Blood Glenn Beck outfit?
26th, which was Saturday.
Oh, nice. Jill Carter's coming to the show on Friday. Yay!
Russian President Vladimir Putin has told both nations that if they join NATO, there will be military political repercussions. Biden administration also said that they believe that Russia plans to threaten to kill the families of Ukrainian soldiers if they don't surrender. Also, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says that the alliance sending thousands of commanders to nations in Eastern Europe near Ukraine. It'll be beefing up arms support and continuing to send weapons and air defense.
By the way, I don't know if these are the 5 facts that don't make sense or if he's just reading a bunch of headlines. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like and subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show in any way you can, or just show up and watch and enjoy yourself. Thank you very much.
To Ukraine and reinforcing defenses on allied territory of NATO. Russian state news has announced that Russia is deploying 12,000 Chechens to Ukraine. The Chechens are brutal killers, probably the most brutal on the earth.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily true, other than the fact that they set up rape camps. That's what he's talking about, but he won't. I don't know if he's alluding to that part of it.
Britain's Ministry of Defense put out new intelligence update on the Russian-Ukraine war. They say Russian forces have continued their advance on Kyiv with the bulk of their forces and are now 30 miles away from the city. Ukraine's Ministry of Interior has asked all people in the country to turn off the geolocation on their cell phones as Russians are beginning to track gatherings of people, as locations may possibly be tracked even.
Right, which of these are the 5? Are you going to pick 5 of these? That's the title of this video, by the way. 5 facts that don't make sense about Putin, Russia, and Ukraine. 5 facts. Okay, here we go.
With geolocation GPS turned off,
it
is best to completely remove the battery on your cell phone if possible to ensure your location cannot be tracked. Ukrainian President Zelensky seemed to hint that Turkey had closed its strait, leading many reports that they have done this, but reports by Reuters say Turkey has not yet decided to close the straits. I believe that happened later. Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs, then
why not check it before you fucking read it, dummy?
Kulba has responded to apparent propaganda that Ukraine has plans to launch a dirty bomb into Russian territory. Then YouTube.
By the way, dirty bomb sounds like a Warrant song. I'm just going to say. It just sounds like it, or maybe a rat demo.
The Russian state news, Russia Today, as well as other Russian channels from receiving money from advertisements. French President
That's right. I didn't give Jimmy 5 eggs. He doesn't deserve it. I'm going to give him to Little House on the Prairie.
Well, Macron said he has asked Lushenko, the president of Belarus, to demand.
Eat 2 eggs a day. 5 eggs. 5 eggs.
5. Yeah, it's 5 eggs, 1 for every fact that
Russian troops leave the country. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered Russia's nuclear...
What was that face, by the way? Asked him to tell him the Russian troops to leave the country. I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know if that's I don't know.
Deterrent forces on alert in response to Western sanctions and rising tensions. This was yesterday. Former U.S. defense intelligence analysts said that Putin is escalating the conflict into the nuclear domain in order to de-escalate, that is, topple Kyiv's regime quickly due to the fact that his forces aren't getting the job done. Russia's war on Ukraine failed to provide Russia a quick and decisive victory after 4 days of fighting. Russia reportedly pulled their ally, Belarus. Is that how you say it? Belarus.
Oh, my God. Belarus, fucko.
Belarus in on the conflict, according to the Ukraine.
It's pronounced Bell Anus, just in case you, for Glenn, next time, in case you have any trouble.
River.
Belanus.
In news. Yada, yada, the embassy in Moscow for the United States.
Yada, yada, yada. War, bomb, nuke, nuclear death, destruction, yada, yada.
Put
yada,
out an
yada.
announcement telling all you
Bell, anus, yada, yada.
nationals to leave Russia, quote, immediately. Lindsey Graham stated that he believes Russia may be ready to level a Ukrainian city with a nuke and kill thousands of civilians to break their will and break our will.
He's and Lindsey's he's the sharpest tack you've ever stepped on. So
He's a moron. The British
look at that broken clock moment.
Defense Ministry has put out an intelligence update that says Russia's ground forces remain 30 miles north. Now, this is 24 hours later. They're still 30 miles from Kyiv. Let's see. Fighting is heavy. British Prime Minister stated the United Kingdom was.
Dude, get what the fuck is this video about then? Just stop reading headlines and tell me what your 5 facts that don't make sense.
40 million more pounds in aid to Ukraine for medical supplies and assistance to the country. Now, today, the exchange rate for the Russian ruble is now at a record high at about 117 to 125 ruble for every $1. The central bank has also lifted the borrowing rate from 9.5% interest rate to 20%.
The Great Reset. Glenn, move it. This is the part that doesn't make sense. The Great Reset was supposed to happen to Europe and America, and we were supposed to be the ones that communism and Great Reset, and they were going to fuck the whole thing up, and giant inflation and huge interest rates, and they were going to wreck the whole shit, and it was going to be America was the cause of this, and the Biden administration, and then all of a sudden, Russia's doing that shit, and that...
This is in Russia.
Oh, there was an edit. Look at that. That was a cut. What the fuck? Watch this.
Rate to 20%. This is in Russia. Now.
Yes, please. Now, what rant did they cut out? All right.
Something doesn't feel right.
Well, I'd have it checked. Is it a lump? Or is it crusty?
So Europe decided to impose the SWIFT sanctions. Now, the SWIFT sanctions, a little piece was kind of left out by everybody last week that's kind of important.
Uh-oh.
Everyone, including me, was calling for the SWIFT sanction.
Right, but the U.S. doesn't have the ability to enact that, but okay.
Seems pretty easy. Cut off their...
It's not.
Thanks. We're still not cutting off their oil supply. That should be done before anything else. We are still buying Russian oil and gas, and so...
Well, we're not. Europe is.
Europe. Even though that is true... Gasoline is now $8 a gallon in London.
In London? I didn't even know they were selling it by the gallon in London.
$8 a gallon.
Oh my God, a gallon. In the middle of the Ukraine-Russia conflict with all this NATO tension, and they decided to leave the metric system?
Joe Biden said last week that he was going to do everything he could to make sure he eases the pain at the gas pump. And he's reached out to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has said no to us. He's reached out. He's close to a deal with Iran. But he closed yet another avenue for oil here in the United States.
Oh, yeah. You mean while he's had 34% more leases than Trump did, he's closed off the ones that would kill fisheries because we gotta fucking eat, you dolt.
Weekend. Fact number one that doesn't make sense.
It's weird. I don't know why you'd want to favor oil and gas leases on land nobody lives on versus where we get our fucking fish.
If you have something and you are really, truly trying to help America and help the...
and you're bum rushing it, and you don't give a shit later if we starve or if food prices go through the roof or if we toxify an entire aquifer where we might get our drinking water, then I don't understand why you wouldn't want to. All right.
Guy, with gas prices, the last thing you do is open up the strategic oil reserve. The first thing you do is open up all of the pathways to pump more oil. And
well, those are private companies that do that. You give them leases, but they have to actually drill. And you give them, where they have the leases, they produce as much as they produce, but you can't put a gun to their head and say produce more, no matter what. It's a free market system. We live in a capitalist structure. Now, I know, Glenn, what you're advocating for is a nationalization of the oil industry like Venezuela. And I know that's what you want. However,
find more gas. The last thing you do is buy oil from Iran and Russia.
Well, no, it's if it's really cheap, you buy it from them anyways at a really low price, because it's eventually going to be gone, and they need to sell it really bad, so because they have no other monetary input, so they're gonna you can pretty much name your price.
If they are your enemy, if you think that it's worthy of DEFCON 2,
it's not. That's Russia. Russia's at DEFCON 2. Yeah.
Then you should probably make sure, since we don't have solar panel jets yet, that you have the fuel in country to be able to fight a war.
Well, we do, but we're not having a war in country, fucko. And we're not fighting a war with fuel over there. As a matter of fact, it's right there. If we decided to push in to some of these areas, we would just take the oil and gas from the action. There's actually oil in that region, even in the water. Never mind.
So fuel makes no sense.
Yeah, that's good. Fuel makes no sense. Fucking hell.
The next thing that doesn't make sense, the SWIFT sanctions.
Yeah, not a sanction, just the Europeans cutting them off from the SWIFT system. Belgium has the final say on that.
First, we didn't
Everybody
do them.
signed off.
And
right, because we can't do them. It's not our system.
First thing you do after you cut their oil, which we still haven't done, is cut their banking system, and you hurt them at the bank level.
Yeah, and nobody's done that. Oh, shit. The ruble is at 117 per dollar. Less than a penny it's worth right now.
That sounds great. However, I learned something new as soon as they did it. Then experts decide to say, oh, by the way, here's what happens when we do that. Shouldn't we have known that last week? Shouldn't some of these experts have been out last week and say, here's why we're not cutting SWIFT. Here's why we're not cutting them out of SWIFT.
Now a warning?
SWIFT, by the way, is the international banking system, so you can transfer large sums of money between banks, okay? You can't, as a country.
It's the communications about it. It's not the actual transfer matrix. That's different, but okay.
Do business if you can't communicate between banks. So they're out.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Well, Russia apparently has billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in debt with banks all over the world. If they can't pay those loans, what happens? That hurts the banks on our side. So the banks have a shortage. The banks become unstable. After the...
Yes, all of our held Russian debt, which up to this point, Glenn was really worried about. Now all of a sudden, asshole, they're hiding money. They don't have a shit ton of debt. That's where the oil transfers are coming from.
Russian banks do, but the banks become unstable here.
Yes, that's what's happened. Our banks have become unstable. Let me know when our banks become unstable, Glenn.
I don't understand. Honestly, I'm trying. I've reached out to people who know these things. I still can't understand it yet, but I will, hopefully.
Great. Well, here's a good idea. How about shut the fuck up about it until you do, so you're not just pulling nonsense out of your ass.
Tomorrow and be able to explain it to you in a much better way.
Great. Then shut up till tomorrow, one would think. Or look it up right now.
But they're also having to deal in U.S. dollars, and that's how they pay their loans, which makes a shortage of dollars.
Oh, wait a minute. A shortage of dollars? I thought we'd printed all this money, Glenn. I thought quantitative easing had flooded the market. There's too many American dollars out there to be had, and that's lowering the value of the... Oh, wait.
For these banks in the West, which means the solution is for our Federal Reserve to print more U.S. dollars. And we're talking about trillions of dollars.
Yeah, but they would only do that to replace these dollars that you think are out of circulation because of the isolation of those funds that aren't going to get paid out. We don't print money to give to the banks for other people's payments from other countries. They just fucking default on it. What the hell?
Now, how does that help us at home?
I don't know, because you're pulling it out of your ass. None of this is true. You're a fucking lunatic. They have a shortage of American dollars. There's not a shortage of American dollars. Fucking hell. Yes, I don't understand any of this, and it sounds really weird. And it's almost like I've misheard everything.
So our gas is going up. And
excuse me, all my gas goes up because it is lighter than air.
Our dollar is being deflated even more.
No, it isn't. It's being inflated artificially by the removal of the Russian payments, according to you, that are existing. And therefore, we would have to print more money, which they don't do. Like, never mind the fact that quantitative easing and the infusion of cash into it is not done that way. It's bank reserves, and it's a whole different thing, and it's childish. The whole fucking central banks print money stuff is nonsense, and it's annoying. And he runs on that dumb idea he always has. These are all new dumb ideas. He's had old dumb ideas for a long time. These are stacking.
Hey, that
now.
Doesn't really make sense. Here's another thing that...
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, so you're just talking.
Doesn't make
Good
sense.
Lord.
Somebody help me out.
Okay, I'd be glad to, Glenn.
I believe they're E4s. Look that up, Stu. I believe they're E4s, and they may be different now, but back in the 80s, we had E4s. And the first thing we would do when we would go into a country is we'd knock out its power and its communications. You don't want people being able to, the troops to be able to communicate with command. You knock out command and control communication, okay? You also knock out the electricity. It causes confusion and chaos. That way, no one has any information.
Oh, boy. Is this the moment where Glenn Beck gets a lesson in a hostile war versus an absorption war? A war for territorial disputes that is a mix of friendlies and people who are against you, or a targeted war in another country. You go to a targeted war in another country, you're obviously taking their resources. You can give a rat fuck about the people, so you can wipe everything out and replace them with your people. If you're invading a country that's half your people and half other people, and not all your people are aligned, and you haven't created a matrix of connected rebel forces within the country yet, and yet you had intended doing that, knocking out all these things isolates your forces and the very people who might be feeding you intel in this particular situation. Also, the idea that if you think it's going to be easy, you don't want to blow everything up because you want that shit when it's all over.
The Ukrainian internet is Russian companies. Now,
not anymore.
Why wouldn't these Russian companies be told by Vladimir Putin, please don't let anybody communicate?
Because they are using the sources of those communications and the fact that they run all of those companies to find everyone and everything.
Organize online.
And Musk has sent Starlink to replace it. They'll use the mechanical infrastructure of the space, but the Wi-Fi, the internet, the 5G system in Ukraine will be Starlink around the major cities.
Don't let anyone start putting out propaganda of how well they're doing. For God's sake.
Well, you can't pick and choose. It's either on or it's off. And they don't have control over it.
Shut the internet off before you get Zelensky.
Yes, by the way, this is also Glenn Beck advising Vladimir Putin on battle strategy. Like he's saying,
looking like a world hero.
Zelensky, yeah.
Or Zelensky.
I'm sorry, what? Yeah, what was that little brag? What was that situation?
For God's sake, shut the internet off before you get Zelensky looking like...
Yeah, Zelensky, that dude. I'm sick of seeing that guy all over my internet. How do you solve a problem like Zelensky? Zelensky, it cleans anything. May harm children and pets. Do not use around anyone that has a heartbeat. Zelensky.
World hero.
Zelensky, yeah.
Zelensky, he makes a zinkety sound.
Zelensky, looking like a world hero.
Yes, him. Oh, I mean, you're making Zelensky look like Zelensky at this point.
If I'm Putin,
and you are, all right,
probably throwing those people out of windows. I don't know, by Saturday. Why?
Well, because primarily those Russian companies have set up satellite systems inside the country. They don't have overt control over them. And even if they did turn them off temporarily, people inside the country could turn them back on. And Ukraine, as an isolated, as a sovereign country, has control over their own internet as well. So that would be why. Also,
they go in with the jammers. Are the E4s the jammers?
E4's it.
Yeah, you're going with the jammers. Jam it up.
The mobile command and control post
in a plane.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So they can.
Yeah, that's not the jammers. Mobile command and control is their own internet that they roll in with.
They can jam everything and make sure our communications are up, I believe. Anyway, doesn't matter. What matters is...
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. What doesn't matter is Glenn Beck's idea of what the fuck is going on. This is so stupid. Jam on it. No, it.
Countries down when we go in. It's the first thing we do. Why didn't he do that?
It's because we haven't invaded Canada. Because we're not trying to topple a regime of a friendly country in theory ever. That's why we don't tend to do that. We tend to only go into hostile countries in those situations. And that's why. Fucking hell.
Why are we still seeing all of these stirring pictures?
Putin, do something about this. How am I supposed to bullshit my viewers and my listeners that Ukraine deserved this and had it coming if people can see that these people are valiantly fighting to save their own country?
Work to his advantage. It only strengthens the Ukrainians and strengthens the world's resolve against Putin. Am I right?
We were told there was going to be all the cyber attacks and all of these things leading up to it, which...
Yeah, there were. They weren't successful.
Can shut that down immediately.
Wasn't there something that Elon...
It's like, don't they know that... Look, here's how it works. You have a guy who's uncomfortably young for the circumstance right next to the super spy. He wears glasses. He's really skinny. The spy guy has muscles. The spy guy gets him in and calls him funny names, but ultimately he still decides to help. And he taps away on the thing, and he puts a thumb drive in the side of the keyboard and goes to the computer, and then all of a sudden the screens change, and he says, "We're in." And then the tapping starts. And then internet That's how it works. Okay. All right.
And his satellites are providing some internet, but that's still.
Yesterday, there was some problems with their internet, some problems with one of their internet providers, as I understand it. And so they needed some backup. So Elon Musk sent his technology over to them, which doesn't require internet. It's all on satellite. It's great technology.
Yeah, it's great technology for the internet that doesn't require internet. This is the best kind of internet because it doesn't actually have any internet. You know how the internet is really confusing and you're like, https://www.infotainmentwars.com/funny. You don't have to do any of that shit. It's magic. It's anti-net. That's right.
Yada, yada, yada. And I'm glad he did it.
Yes, it doesn't use internet. It uses yada, 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 which is, that's 3 yada. I can't wait till 5 yada comes out because it's going to be, like the streaming is going to be.
He should have been asked to do that on day one. Not over the weekend.
Yeah. He should have been asked on day one of the fucking attack.
Again, more things that don't add up. And I don't know what...
I don't understand what's going on. Why in the world does a private dude not drop his magic non-internet yada, yada, yada machines into a war zone on day one? Like, didn't he know how this was going to go?
Add up too. But something isn't right. A couple of other.
Yes. All right. Something isn't right. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this, after I sell you some dick pills and some timeshares.
That don't make sense to me. First of all.
All right. Spanish.
Zelenko was not known.
Oh, you motherfucker. He already corrected you. Who are you talking about? Why does he get this? Holy shit. Zelenko, he can't not do this.
Sense to me. First of all, Zelenko was not known mainly to the world, not known to.
No. I still don't know him. I know a lot of people. I still don't know who this Zelenko fellow is. And I like the cut of his jib. Oh, we have, don't worry too much about the trolls, unless they post a bunch of junk in here or whatever. They have no power here. Zelenko. It's a Palenko machine. It's the...
People like, my wife who doesn't pay attention to all of this stuff.
To the point that people keep calling him Zelenko on national radio.
I know. Sorry.
That's one of the craziest parts.
Sorry.
Zelensky.
Get him, Stu. Look, Stu is just fucking disgusted. Great. And Stu knows that he's going to need to bring Glenn Burke on his show. Besk? It's Glenn Besk, right? Glenn Besk? Yeah.
Zelensky, sorry.
There's just too many Russian
down.
names.
Yeah, I know. There is a
Ukrainian
Zelenko.
names.
It's not.
Yeah, there's so many weird Ukrainian names, and it's hard to keep track of the only one anybody gives a fuck about right now.
Zelensky, sorry. So Zelensky's not known to the average person a week ago.
No. I blame the media for mispronouncing his name.
The only thing they may have known him from some of the Trump back and forth.
That's it.
And maybe that he was a comedian or an actor that played the president on TV, I believe, right? And then was elected president.
Yeah, and the idea that somebody on TV would get elected president is fucking absurd.
Okay, so he's not known. Now, he's known as a hero. In fact, he's known by the average American now and is kind of in the position, if you kill him, it's almost like killing the Archduke Ferdinand.
Yes, that's what it's like. It's like almost like killing the Archduke Ferdinand. Because the Archduke, I don't know if you ever saw when the Archduke Ferdinand was on Dancing with the Stars in Ukraine, but...
Remember what happened with the Archduke Ferdinand?
Mm-hmm.
Something else doesn't make sense. Why are all the
Something else doesn't make sense with this Zelenko
or
fella.
left people all of a sudden so pro-war. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, we're not pro-war. We're pro-democracy, and democracy is under attack. And Vladimir Putin, who sprays poison in people's faces and is imprisoning Alexei Navalny and threw Pussy Riot in jail and has jailed, at my most recent count, about 7,000 of his own people just for protesting this, are kind of on the side of the Ukrainians. You'd think.
All the people who won't defend our borders are demanding that
we believe in defending our borders, but we also don't think it's a hostile military force that's coming. It's women and children and some migrant workers, and we believe that there's a measured and diplomatic way of handling that, not going, eek, brown people, fuck them, which seems to be your plan.
Defend the borders of Ukraine.
Yeah, it's not about they're not trying to just come across the border. And they're surrounding the entire fucking country with tanks and missiles. I'm not worried about being surrounded on three sides by Mexican immigrants who, arguably, if there were more of them in country, would be filling jobs right now that are left open.
People who are against the Second Amendment are all saying, hey, look how great this is. They're handing
Yeah, well, they're handing out guns because it's a well-regulated militia, fucko. This is like the best example. We're all cool with this. The average Ukrainian is not walking around with a goddamn Kalashnikov all the time. They don't have a lot of school shooters showing up with fucking Kalashnikovs. They don't have AK-47s and AK-42s and whatever the fuck else. Look, hold on. Glenn, can I show you? Hold on. Ukrainians. Maybe this will give you an example. Here, shithead. They were training with wooden guns because they're not prevalent in the fucking country. They take them seriously as weapons of war. They don't want them everywhere. And they handed them out when there was a problem.
To all of their citizens, all those who, said that
in a well-regulated fashion, after training them for proper use and safety,
should all go to jail, are now saying these anti-war people in Russia, they shouldn't be prosecuted. We should go help them.
Right. Because they're just marching in the street holding up cardboard signs. They didn't storm a state building and fuck up some cops. They're literally just arresting people simply for protesting. I don't know, like, these guys, they're never gonna...
What's happened here?
Here's what's happened here, Glenn. And it's good to end on this, I think. And thank you guys for watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. It's good to be with you. Here's what's happening, Glenn. You have a comprehension problem, both reading and visually, it would seem, auditory as well. Hearing the name Zelensky, seeing it written, and seeing it talked about ad nauseum on your social media, which was part of your complaint. The entire basis of one of the biggest points you made was, why hasn't Putin shut down the internet? This guy's a worldwide star, Zelenko. The idea that you start this whole idea off with, this whole rant off about things that seem mysterious and you don't understand about this in particular, my screen shut off, about this conflict, is the confusion you seem to be going through seems ubiquitous across all fronts. You seem puzzled by fucking reality. Honest to God. What did we watch in this situation? What did we watch other than him confused by every headline he read at the top of this? Grown man, like, absorbing nothing. But what do I know? I've never even heard of Zelenko. So on that note, thank you guys for liking and subscribing to the show, giving it a thumbs up or even a thumbs down. Thanks, trolls, for typing in there and being in the chat with us today, because you guys, more than anything, spread us through the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe, because I know you're going to want to hate watch this tomorrow. as we dive into a bunch of things, including tomorrow. I won't be doing the State of the Union, but I will be doing the responses. And then I got to go to the airport and fly to Michigan to go do stand-up comedy jokes. And so this is woof. A lot of and I will continue to do the show over the course of the week while I'm there. But don't forget, we love trolls here. We don't worry about them. The only time I will ever broom them is if they type a big one of those giant Facebook paragraphs that eats up the screen, because it's just rude. And no links. I mean, what are we new here? Come on. Of course you're going to get broomed. And don't sell, cures for Hep C from a African doctor that you know and you never thought you'd be cured. Of course we're going to dump you on that. Everything else, it's fine. Just don't use any racial epithets or anti-gay or misogynist language, and you can kind of, if you're capable of it. I understand some of you have a very limited English vocabulary. You're paid trolls. You don't have much to do. So there you go. Anyways, I will see you at the regular time tomorrow for the show. And then, of course, Wednesday morning show might be a special, it might be later. The morning show it depends on when I get in, if the internet is strong enough in my hotel. That's the only thing I've got. So that said, until next time, fuck Glenn Beck, fuck Jimmy Dore, and everybody who thinks that they make sense. And I mean that literally. They need to be made sweet, sweet love to, because they're obviously broken inside and they need something. I am so aggravated that I had to spend as much time as I did tonight with them. And I thank you guys for spending it with me. Whew, good Lord. All right. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. And I will see you guys tomorrow.